It was on this day in 1994 that REM, not Rapid Eye Movement, but I think that's what Michael Stipe and company wanted you to take from the name of their band. REM was in the top 10 at number 9 on the UK singles charts with the song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? 31 years ago this day, the 10th of September back in 1994. The song's title refers to a really frightening incident, quite frankly, back in the mid-'80s, 1986, when news anchor Dan Rather was walking home from work and a couple of well-dressed men, we are told, attacked him, seemingly unprovoked. And whilst in the midst of the attack, one of the attackers repeated the phrase, Kennethy, what's the frequency? And nobody really knew what that was all about. And when Mr. Rather called for help and the doorman to his building came to his rescue, the assailants fled, never to be heard from again. No arrests ever made in that attack on Dan Rather back in 1986. But REM's song, the title for which came from that attack, What's the Frequency, Kenneth, starts our show on this Wednesday morning. A very good morning to you. I hope you made it to where you had to be safely. It was a little thick out there. I'm talking about the fog this morning. And it was great because when you're driving on the dark expressway towards Trussler Road and you are coming up on a vehicle that does not have its lights on, it's dark enough, it's difficult enough to see even without the fog, or to see you without the fog, and you're going to drive. You, sir, have been placed directly, do not pass go, do not collect 200. You are in jackwagon jail. How can you get behind the wheel on a morning like this morning and not turn on the headlight system in your car? I was fortunate enough yesterday to have received a gift from one of our guests on the show. I want you to know that is never required of you. You are in no way obligated to bring gifts. But when you do, I certainly don't mind. And I'm always happy to share, which I did, with our colleagues here at 570 News Radio. But we've got a little bit of a beef, not with the gift giver. We're very grateful for that. But the gift left behind was a delicious bag of candy, and you know me, and sugar. And if it's got sugar as an ingredient, I virtually automatically like it. And I do. But these were little Reese peanut butter cups with caramel. And we have decided, we took a poll amongst all the newsies here, and we think you have messed with a good thing, Reese's. Like, you had chocolate and peanut butter. It was the ultimate recipe. And then what did you go and do? You thought you had to add caramel to it? I'm not sure I quite understand the logic there. You had something that was perfect. It reminds me of Oreo cookies. You know the Oreo, right? That perfect cookie with the cream filling and the couple of chocolate wafers. And then you made the double stuff, which is pretty smart. But then you went and you just jumped the proverbial shark and you made all kinds of different Oreo cookies. What are you messing with a good thing for, Reese's? That was the question we were asking here at the radio station this morning. As we get down to business, I'm curious about something. And I think I have the evidence to support this theory that I'm currently working on. The theory is this. Does Ontario Premier Doug Ford listen to our radio show? Recall that in a previous interview with the Premier on this show, he had this to say.
Can I give you a shout out, Mike, because you're a pretty humble guy, but I want to tell the people, Mike, and I've read this statistic, fibrosis, the work you're doing, it says hire Farwell. Well, buddy, don't worry, I have lots of jobs for you. I'll be able to have you over. We'll have you cleaning up all day long. I'll give you Carla, my wife. I'll give her the honeydew list. Man, you'll be going for about 3 weeks. Anyways, Mike, thank you for everything you're doing and getting the message out. You've been an absolute champion, and we're so grateful that we're out there, and you and the rest of the folks are getting the message out. So thank you for that.
That was Ontario Premier Doug Ford on this show some time ago. Clearly, he had some understanding of the kinds of things we do around here. And I was thinking about that when I heard Premier Ford say this yesterday.
They should take out those cameras, all of them. If you want to slow down traffic at school, you put the big, huge signs, big flashing lights, crossing area, people will slow down. This is nothing but a tax grab. I've driven by speed traps aren't even close to school areas. It's nothing but a tax grab. So, you know something? Hopefully the cities will get rid of them, like Mayor Del Duca did in Vaughan, or I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly.
Oh, I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly, says the Premier. What have we been saying on this show for weeks and weeks and months and months? These cameras and the way the program was rolled out, such a ham-handed way of doing things, they are nothing but a cash grab, full stop. And it seems as though the Premier is listening. And if municipalities don't get rid of the cameras themselves, the Premier's going to help them do that. Here's my simple message to the region of Waterloo. Do it now. End the program now before it gets even messier later. Because if this same Premier who tore up bike lanes in Toronto is a man of his word, the speed camera programs will come to an end. Just end it now, cut your losses, and start over. That would be my advice. That would be my advice. And I just also want to say, I've been trying because I was getting a lot of flack because we've been talking about this so much. It's just such a bee in my bonnet, right? Really chafing my chaps. And so it's not me talking about speed cameras. It was the Premier. But you should hear what the Premier had to say about it because it's what we've been saying about it on the show. And this morning, our reporter Josh Piercy was talking about the update that went to Regional Council about our speed camera program yesterday. And one thing just stood out to me from Acting Transportation Commissioner Doug Spooner when he was responding to a question about our speed camera program. This really caught my ear.
So there is obviously a threshold. Council is aware there's a threshold. That threshold is not public because I don't want to reset the speed limit, but there are some instances of speeding that are within a threshold that has been allowed in this program.
How is it exactly that the threshold is known by regional staff who program the cameras, is known by council, but it's not known by us, the us that are paying for the speed camera program? How is it that we don't get to know the threshold that these cameras are set to? What in HE double hockey sticks is wrong with this picture? They are our cameras. Allegedly, this rollout is something that our council is doing because we asked for it to be done. That's how municipal governments work, right? We elect people and they do the things that we expect them to do. Oh, we need increased road safety. We need speed cameras. But you're not going to tell us what the threshold is set to on our cameras. And we're supposed to be okay with this? I'm not necessarily okay with this. Thought I would point that out. And before we end the speed camera program, just for kicks and giggles, okay? Just tell us what the threshold is. We'll just have some fun with it. We'll laugh. We'll talk about it over beers for years after this. All right, who's ready for a Farwell Show 5 on this Wednesday morning? I am. We'll start at number 1, if you don't mind. Regional Police looking into a, quote, threat of harm directed at a school in Cambridge, which has the building closed for the day. Père René de Galinay Secondary School on Maple Grove Road is closed as police investigate what's described as a serious situation. We'll keep you posted here on 570 News Radio. Number 2, as you heard during All News Mornings, Regional Council continues to move forward with its plans to extend rapid transit into Cambridge, while townships push back against footing a bill for a service they don't receive. You can get a closer look at the Phase 2 rapid transit plans today. A public information session is being hosted at the Queen's Square Library today in Cambridge from 4:30 until 7 o'clock. It's worth noting, too, that in Phase 1, the townships did not pay on their regional taxes for light rail. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, an investment firm has taken over a long-standing Kitchener business. The investment group with 3 partners has acquired Great Canadian Holidays and Coaches, a business run by the Hunt family, led by Lorna and Larry, for more than 40 years. The Hunt say the sale will help with the future growth and prosperity of Great Canadian, and that they will remain as partners in the business, but their involvement will be dramatically reduced. Daughter Michelle Hunt Tupman remains part of the new ownership team, and no personnel changes are anticipated. Number 4, federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is in the region today. He's touring an industrial filtration business in Cambridge. Poilievre has been recommending that the Liberal government adopt the Conservative housing plan to fix the crisis in Canada.
Mr. Carney has accomplished the impossible. It is a triple crisis, with prices too high for buyers to buy, too low for sellers to sell, and inadequate for builders to build. The money from a home today does not go to the buyer, the seller, or the builder. It goes to the government.
And number 5, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Rotary Club of Cambridge Sunset is preparing for its annual Cambridge Rotary Recycle and Shred Day. Comes up in a couple of weeks on Saturday, September the 27th from 9 until 1. It'll be held at the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce parking lot on Hespler Road. And attendees can have confidential papers securely shredded on site for a minimum $10 donation. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. I think something I said already or something in the news has struck a chord with you, because my phone lines are already very busy. You know what? In 2 minutes, I'm going to start taking your calls. Love to hear from you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Email from Dave to Mike at 570news.com. I just turned you off. I cannot listen to you gripe about cameras again. If the cameras were not there, you would not have a program. All you have been talking about for months. I can't take it anymore. Dave, it was the Premier. I was just telling you what the Premier said about speed cameras, which just so happens to be the same thing I've been saying for months. But anyway, I'm sorry, Dave. I'll miss you. I really will. Please come back sometime if you want. You don't have to, though. It's a free-ish country these days. Let's go to the phones and hear from you this morning. Chuck is here. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning. Listened to your show yesterday, and you were going on about the suicide helplines and stuff. I guess it's Suicide Awareness Month.
It is indeed.
My condolences to your family. I myself was in crisis last night, and in listening to your show, thought I would take advantage of the program you guys were talking about, the 988, and I think you had some people on from the region who would help with this kind of stuff. I just wanted to call in and let you know that the experience I had was less than disappointing. I never actually got through to talk to anybody. Regionally here, they shut down at an early time, and the 988 number, which I called several times, nobody ever answered. I'm very disappointed in that.
How are you doing right now, Chuck?
Not good, obviously, but I just thought it was important to put that out there. I think there's obviously some more funding or some things need to be ironed out, because I know I'm not alone. So I have some friends that could help me, and other people may not. So I'm just very disappointed that there was no one there for that.
Chuck, I thank you for taking the time to call our show today. I'm glad that you had some friends to support you. We did indeed, with our friends from the Canadian Mental Health Association, talk about World Suicide Awareness Month. Today, for what it's worth, is World Suicide Prevention Day. This is the day within the month that we put a spotlight on these things. And just so we're all aware, the 988 suicide crisis line is not run by the region. So if you were not able to get through, then there is absolutely a problem and reason to be disappointed. I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you for sharing it. And hopefully we can make some progress in that regard. And I'm certainly glad you were here to make the call and join our show this morning. It's nice to hear from you. Mary, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike with the mic. Mike, I had it in my head all evening to call in, and you broached the subject Rob Ford is my new best friend.
Doug Ford. Rob has passed.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
Know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I just want so we all understand.
No. I'm sorry. A lot of people, and they have called in and said we go around these lights, these what do you call it, cameras. So they go down smaller little streets, and people are not happy there because they can cause an accident there. And I would like, as I called in before, I think the police have to get out in their cruisers. We might have to hire a couple more, but they should monitor stop signs, give fines to those e-bike people that don't obey the rules and that don't wear helmets. Come on with your coming on.
All right, Mary, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Premier Ford did say yesterday that putting a police officer with a radar gun on these streets or in these school zones would be just as effective a deterrent. David Schooley, the negotiator, is on the phone too. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. You know what, Chuck? Please keep making calls. You'll get some help. The suicide prevention line is, if it's not where it should be, we will get it there.
Exactly. Yep. Well said.
So, you know what? Thank you to all the Titans fans that put in their money for 50-50, and we made a donation this past year to Waterloo Region Suicide Prevention, and we're very proud about that. But we will do better, Chuck. But that's not why I called this morning. So I don't usually talk about political things too much, but I think the speed cameras, I've been listening to you go on and on, Mike, and I love how you go on and on about things. I think Doug Ford is right. Like, the gotcha program that's going on right now, like, hey, you know what? What is it, 2 million tickets? Doug Ford is right. We want to slow people down. Just put up great big flashing lights at every single one. I mean, I'm sure that would be cheaper. Like, when we think about school buses, Mike, do we put speed cameras or cameras on school buses to try to protect kids, or do we actually put flashing lights and barriers come down, right? That's what we should be doing in school zones. Something that's actually there, that instead of trying to, generate revenue with the gotcha program.
It's really well said, David, and I appreciate the participation in the program. And I'll just say, too, I recognize that some folks have gotten tired of me going on and on about it. That's sometimes what we have to do in order to get through to the decision makers. And clearly, Premier Ford is listening to us go on and on. But I'll just share a quick example from a Waterloo neighborhood I was in a couple of weeks ago. So just picture this. You're on Bluevale Street. Is it Street or Avenue? Anyway, you're on Bluevale, going past St. Agnes, right? The school and the church, limits 30 kilometers per hour. You turn off of Bluevale onto Bridgeport Road, an arterial regional road, and within 2 blocks, you're at another school zone, but the limit there is 40. And where the limit's 40 on Bridgeport Road, guess what? The school isn't even there anymore. It's being rebuilt right now. So what are we doing here? It's so arbitrary and inconsistent. And I don't think, to David's point, it needs to be enforced around the clock. Just put up a sign, flashing lights, lower limit enforced when school is in session. It's really easy. That's all we're asking for here is a little bit of fairness in the program. 2 million incidents of speeding. You heard David say that. I want to know the threshold. What's the threshold? It wasn't 2 million tickets. It was 55,000 tickets in 6 months here in the region. But 2 million times people were over the posted speed limit by a kilometer, 2, whatever. But we don't know what the threshold is that triggers a ticket. Back to the phones. Paul, good morning.
First off, you say our cameras, are they ours or are we leasing from some company?
I believe the money goes to Germany for the cameras.
Yeah, they listen. They won't tell us what the limits are as to at what point you're going to get a ticket. Is there someplace, any place, is there a list of all the locations of the speed cameras?
Oh, yeah. I think the region keeps one. Maybe we should make a section on our website for that.
Yeah, I personally, I'd like to know where they all are because from what I understand, and I get this from a very reliable source, apparently there is 5 pounds of copper in those speed cameras. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh, Paul, why you gotta be such a Paul? I do not endorse the subtle hint in that message from Paul. I know what he's getting at. Oh, he's such a rascal. Conservative Charlie, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Just imagine that. Now, we had an advertisement just a couple minutes ago on the benefits of these speed cameras.
I heard it.
They're spending money on this, but, I'd like to call this the Pinocchio speed program because all those people that are for it, their noses just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They're saying, we want to save lives around the school. Well, then fine. Just leave them on while the school's on and shut them off the rest of the year. That's all they have to do. But here's a suggestion. Blenheim Road in Cambridge. We got 5 speed bumps along there. That slows people down. But for those politicians that say, well, it might damage the undercarriage of your car, I'm sure they really do care about that. And I'm saying that sarcastically, Mike.
All right, Charlie. Appreciate the call and the thoughts on this. I'm going to squeeze in one more before the break. Sue, I've got about 45 seconds. Okay.
Well, everybody's anxious to catch the bus, and here comes the bus, so they leave their trash behind in the little areas, and but nobody seems to know that there is actually a pouch as soon as you come on the bus where you can put your trash.
You're right, Sue, and you're hitting on another one. Christine Show, who is Ward 5? I should know this better. I'm sorry, Christine, but a counselor in the city of Kitchener, 4. Anyway, she was lobbying the region to bring those trash receptacles back to the bus shelter areas at the bus stops because those little pouches in the bus, it's true they're there, they get filled up real fast. But since we took those trash receptacles away from the bus shelters and the bus stops, all of the garbage is piling up. Can't we just hang on to it till we get to a proper receptacle? And maybe perhaps the region, couldn't we bring back the receptacles for people waiting for buses? It would make some sense from where I'm sitting. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Here's what we know. The provincial government here in Ontario and its education ministry has taken over control of a number of school boards. I think the number sits at 4 in this province because of financial irregularities or concerns. And Education Minister Paul Calandra has essentially put every other school board in this province, of which there are dozens, on notice. Make sure your fiscal house is in order, or we will also take over responsibility for your school board. In fact, Minister Calandra has gone so far as to hint at the idea of eliminating school boards altogether. And I know for some, that is music to their ears. Marianne Larson is a professor emerita in the Faculty of Education at Western University and joins us to talk more about this. Marianne, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
I think as a starting point, it would be fair to say that this kind of effort on behalf of an education ministry or an upper level government is not new when it comes to moving into local school boards and trying to assume some sort of control. Would that be fair to say?
That would be absolutely fair to say.
And what have we seen happen then in the past, Marianne, when upper levels of government have moved in like this in an attempt to circumvent the local trustees?
We've seen some pushback in the past, and the article that I think you referred to that I just wrote in a news outlet called The Conversation Canada sort of paints a picture of the history of provincial governments taking powers away from local elected school boards. And we've seen that happening basically since the end of World War II. Local school board trustees used to have a lot more power, the power to tax, raise money locally, set curriculum, hire teachers, and so on and so forth. But over the years, those responsibilities and powers have been centralized. And a lot of that happened in the 1990s with the Mike Harris government, and we're seeing that continue today with the current provincial government in Ontario, and Bill 33 is an example of that.
So, to be honest, Marianne, this centralization of power at the province has been a bit of a bone of contention for me personally, because I wonder, with so little teeth, really, what local school boards are really responsible for these days. And it doesn't feel to me like there's a whole heck of a lot of responsibility.
So that's a fair point. But I would say that there are some responsibilities that elected school board trustees still have that are worth preserving. So the main overall responsibility that school board trustees have is what is called a governance role. They set the main goals and strategic plan for a school board for 3 to 5 years, and then they make sure that what happens within the school board meets those goals. So, for example, in the school board where I'm a trustee, the Thames Valley District School Board, we set goals around school safety. That's important to us. We want to make sure our schools are safe, and we want to be able to measure that and know that what we're doing in the school board is keeping our kids safe. So that's one significant role that trustees still have. And the other is basically advocating for our constituents. We're elected by people, by voters. We are responsible to those voters, and we help our constituents, if they have kids in the system, navigate through the system, help them deal with problems or issues that they might face. And I fielded calls constantly or received emails from my constituents around a whole set of issues where they had exhausted all other means, and they knew that they had their elected representative, their trustee, to turn to advocate on their behalf and really help to solve the problem that they were having in the school system. And that's an important piece that a lot of people aren't talking about, that trustees have. And when you elect somebody, they are accountable to you. And if they don't meet your needs, there's another election coming up, and you can vote accordingly.
So when we consider then, Marianne, this centralization of power that the Education Ministry has begun to take, what are we losing when that power is centralized?
Well, one of the things we're losing is electing people who, as I just said, represent their constituents and their local community, people who understand the local community, the challenges, the benefits, the strengths, the context in which they work, and are there to meet those needs. And I'm not convinced that taking that away and centralizing it with a few appointed people based in Toronto is really the best way to meet the needs of our varied schools and across this province. So what might be an issue up in North Bay is going to be completely different in a place like Kitchener or wherever we're talking in the province. And having that all centralized, we will lose the ability for people to have a local voice, for people to be engaged in their local school communities. And research shows over and over again, our kids do better in schools when their parents, their guardians, their communities are involved in their education. And we will lose that, and I think that will harm our students in our schools.
So given the situation that we face today, Marianne, where certainly some school boards and their spending does raise eyebrows and the public gets concerned about that, perhaps the education minister here is bringing in the hammer where perhaps, something much more could be handled with more finesse, let's say. But how do we move forward when we've got some pretty egregious funding issues in some boards while maintaining this important local democracy at most of the boards in the province? Is there a compromise here? Is there a way that we can move forward out of this situation we seem to be in?
So, first of all, thanks for noting that it is some school boards and not all. In every profession, organization, institution, company in the world, you're going to have some bad apples. And that is the case with school boards as well. But I and many others are of the opinion that we best not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need a dialogue. We have people like myself that ran to be elected because we care deeply about public education. And in my case, I have over 30 years experience working in public education and wanted to serve my community, wanted to give back. And I would welcome a dialogue with the Minister of Education to see how we can do what we do better. We need to be partners in serving our communities and serving our kids. And the hammer that you referred to is not the way to do that. And it will not help our students. And that's ultimately who we should be working to improve their learning conditions and improve what goes on in schools. And the best way to do that is through a conversation.
Marianne, I really appreciate you being a part of this conversation today. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Marianne Larson is a professor emerita in the Faculty of Education at Western University, and currently, I didn't know that prior until she divulged the information in that conversation, but a school board trustee in the London area. I admit that I am struggling with this, and I feel as though right now I'm kind of sitting on the fence, and I don't like to do that. That's not the place I'm comfortable, to say nothing about where the pickets end up when I sit on that fence. But I like to come to you in these conversations with my mind made up. I mean, you can change it perhaps, but I like to come to you with a clear point of view. And I don't really have one right now. We can look at the issues within, I mean, Brantford right nearby, and we saw that trip to Italy and the expenses made. I mean, it's just egregious. The misallocation of public funds. We can look at Thames Valley as an example as well, another one of the school boards that's under now provincial supervision because of that retreat. While the board's finances were in disarray, but tens of thousands of dollars spent on a retreat to the hotel at the Rogers Centre for a Blue Jays game and the get-together with trustees. I mean, there are examples. The chair, I was going to say former, but he's still the chair of the Toronto Catholic District School Board, under fire for expensing 3 a.m. McDonald's runs and $15 milkshakes. And I know we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars, but I think that speaks to a level of entitlement that these sorts of things are being expensed to the public. So I've been of the mind, and then honestly, as Marianne and I talked about, school boards, by and large, have very little to do right now. They don't set curriculum anymore. They're not imposing taxes on the local municipality. Like so many of the things that school boards used to be responsible for, they are no longer responsible for. And I'm not even going to get into the culture wars that have begun to manifest themselves at school boards. I'm talking strictly the X's and O's of what a school board or a board of trustees is responsible for. And the answer is very little. So I have been, to this point, very much of the mind of two things. One is I think we should do away with public Catholic school boards in this province and have one publicly funded English and one publicly funded French school board, period. That's what I think we should have instead of these four, right? Public, Catholic, French, English. We should just have the one publicly funded school board for both Catholic or for both, French and English. That's it. Take out the denominational aspect of it. And I still believe that. I think there is way too much bureaucracy and way too much overlap within these dozens and dozens of school boards. As for the trustees themselves, though, when Minister Calandra floated the idea that boards of trustees would be eliminated, I'm like, you know what? I can get behind that because of what I just said when it comes to the X's and O's. Not a lot of there for me. So what are you doing? But it was actually, and I'll just put it out, even though it was on social media, it was actually Trustee Cindy Watson with our public school board here in the region who, when I suggested that I liked Minister Calandra's idea of eliminating boards of trustees, Cindy Watson replied to my post on X and said, if you value democracy at the local level, you wouldn't support this. And listening to Marianne talk just now about the role that trustees play in connecting families to their schools and being that voice for them, if that's what you're doing as a trustee, I think I can get behind that. I want us to have that local level of accountability. And really, as a numbers guy, school boards don't cost us a lot of money from the trustees, from the elected positions. It's a relatively nominal honorarium that they're paid. I think that the maximum is $15,000. I can't be positive. I'm sorry, I don't have that number. Either way, it's not a lot of money. It's not the money that bothers me. It's just, what are they actually responsible for? So I'm because of that local democracy, and you know me, I'm all about local, and I want us to have representation, and I want that representation to be accountable. And it's awfully hard from your house in Cambridge to make somebody at Queen's Park accountable. So I'm starting to come around on this idea that the trustees' role is one that we still need. Should we get rid of the denominations, the religious aspect of our school boards generally, and have one publicly funded school board? Yes. Should we do away with trustees? I'm not so sure anymore. But you know what? Maybe you know better. You can always point me in better directions. So let me know what you think about the role of school boards today and what you might change, if anything. Would love to hear from you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Having that all centralized, we will lose the ability for people to have a local voice, for people to be engaged in their local school communities. And research shows over and over again, our kids do better in schools when their parents, their guardians, their communities are involved in their education. And we will lose that, and I think that will harm our students in our schools.
Marianne Larson is a professor emerita in the Faculty of Education at Western University. Joins us this morning to talk about school boards and the critical role trustees play in local democracy and accountability. Ideas that I can get behind. When Education Minister Paul Calandra first floated the idea of eliminating boards of trustees, I jumped on board because I've thought for quite some time we could probably live without this layer of bureaucracy. But maybe it's less bureaucracy and more local accountability. And so I'm starting to come around on that aspect of things because I do think it's important to have representation at the local level. And to me, local is not Toronto/Queen's Park/ the home of our provincial government, right? So don't mistake this for my continued calls for an amalgamated Waterloo here in the region. I think we can do away with one level of government and still have perfectly adequate representation region-wide for our community of 700,000 people and counting. I've even designed a new council with, I think I ended up with 23, could have been 24 councillors. But anyway, one level of government, I still think that's plenty of local representation. That's a sidebar. But I don't think local representation is Toronto. And when I've talked about amalgamating before, people have said, why do we have local governments at all? Let's just let the province run everything. Better yet, let's just let Ottawa run everything. No, we need some level of local accountability. We could have that with one tier of municipal government. And I think it's important that we maintain it when it comes to our school boards. 519-570-2545, star 570. And 1-800-570-5715. I will, though, remind you again, because we are just over a year away from the next municipal election. I hope you look long and hard. And I know our municipal ballot is just a dog's breakfast, isn't it? You have to look at a candidate, the multiple candidates for regional chair. Then you have to determine who your regional councillor will be. And if you're in Kitchener, you're voting for 4 of those names. If you're in Cambridge or Waterloo, you're voting for 2 of those names. Then you get into your local municipality and you are voting for a mayor of that local municipality plus the councillor in your ward. And once you get through all of that, then you get down to your school board representatives and you are choosing multiple there in some cases as well. It's a lot, but please do consider when it comes time to cast that ballot locally next October, consider the way our public school board has conducted itself over the past 3 years. I would say even further, but in and of itself, the complete and utter disaster that was the hiring of the former education director should be more than enough information for you to not check the box beside any of the names currently on that public school board. It has been a mess. It continues to be a mess. Accountability, and you heard Marianne Larson say it in our conversation a few minutes ago. If you don't like the job that they are doing, if they are not being accountable enough or you don't like the job, you have that option of voting them out. I think that's the way to go with our public school board. And you know, one of the things that frustrates me, and I had this conversation, it blew my mind, with a local school board trustee who did not even know who the education minister was. If you are a school board trustee in any municipality in this province and you don't know who the education minister is, essentially who you report to as a school board trustee, I wonder why you're in that role in the first place and what your motivation was for applying for that job that we voted you into. That was very concerning to me. And again, I'm not going down the culture wars path right now, but it does make one wonder about any sort of agenda if someone is elected to a school board and does not know the name of the minister to whom they are accountable. Found that very curious. All right, we're going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then we're going to have Tom Korski here from the Blacklocks Reporter minding Ottawa's business, and wait until you hear about the money that was spent and the number of ventilators that were purchased and where they ultimately ended up. Plus, a former MP says he's running again. Does he know something? When's the federal election? All of that coming up in the next 30 minutes on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Every Wednesday morning at this time, we turn our eyes towards the nation's capital. That's where we find the Blacklocks Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering Ottawa with neither politics nor punditry. You can check it out online and get a subscription for yourself at blacklocks.ca. Well worth the investment, and your eyes will thank you with what you read at blacklocks.ca. Tom Korski is the managing editor there and joins us for these weekly conversations. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Mike.
I know that money was flowing fast and free during the pandemic. I get it, shoveling that money out the door. But we are learning just how much of that money went out the door to buy ventilators from an ex-Liberal MP.
Frank Bayless was his name. He had one term from a suburban Montreal riding. But he must have made some good friends. Frank had some good friends. How did they help him?
Within days of the outbreak of the pandemic in 2020, Frank was a subcontractor for a brand new general contractor that got a contract worth $250 million, $237 million to supply ventilators to save the nation. Problem? Frank had never made a ventilator before, and he didn't have a ventilator license. That was no problem. He had another problem. His factory was in big trouble. This was a old family company he inherited from his folks, and they were extending their line of credit. He'd remortgaged the plant, Mike, but that was no problem because Health Canada gave him a cash advance to make ventilators he didn't have a license to make. What happened to all those Baylis machines? Well, there was 10,000 of them. They were all beautifully wrapped, and they were shipped up to Ottawa, 10,000 of them. And they gave away about 800 as foreign aid to countries like Nepal and Pakistan and Rwanda. And they gave about a couple of hundred, 260 to some provinces and territories. What happened to all the others? This is 9,000 and more. Well, they're sitting in a warehouse to this day. And it cost $237 million. By the way, I know you like a happy ending, Mike. It saved Frank's company. He turned around and sold it to American investors for $1 billion. And then he ran for the Liberal leadership. Sad news, finished fourth. There's only so much sunshine that can rain down on Frank Baylis. But that's what happens when you have good friends.
A happy ending indeed. One of the problems I have with this, Tom, is these 5 years later, it's not as though our federal government was exactly forthcoming with the monies spent and the ventilators sitting in storage. How did you unearth this?
Oh, absolutely. It's access to information, and it took years to get it. And in some cases, an order from the Information Commissioner with the weight of a court order, threat of litigation to release those documents. Frank Baylis was not the biggest fiasco in ventilator land during the pandemic. There were other suppliers. There was a list of 5 who got sole source contracts. This is on the level, Mike. They sold ventilators at a taxpayer's charge at $22,000 a pop or more, and then turn around without taking these medical devices out of the shipping crates and auction them as scrap metal at pennies a pound, and for as little as $6. They literally sold them by weight. And we see through internal emails, there was even some federal managers saying, good Lord, don't let the taxpayers find out. Talk about high reputational risk. Mike, I don't say this to be witty or funny. If there's ever a judicial inquiry into federal contracting, my opinion, someone's going to jail.
Why should we care where our tax dollars go, Tom?
Honestly.
Why? Yeah.
And what could you do with $237 million in your hometown today? In terms of sick kids or a wheelchair ramp at the soldier's home, honestly.
Speaking of dollars and cents, Tom, we're waiting for a budget. We expect to finally get one this fall. But what we're still unsure of is how large that deficit number is going to be.
There is some talk from experienced practitioners on Parliament Hill that this could be a dandy. The bloc leader yesterday, Mr. Blanchette, who's been around and he knows his math, he put it at about $80 billion, $80 billion. The opposition leader, Mr. Poilievre, has put it at $84 billion. Both of these longtime legislators who know how to count. These would be staggering figures. The highest we've seen since the pandemic, extraordinary, everyone remembers they borrowed and spent $500 billion, was 2023. They came in at $62 billion deficit. Oh, they missed their target by 55%. It's interesting. You know, the rumor on Parliament Hill was that's why Carney didn't table his spring budget at the same time as every other public authority in the land, right down to the school boards. Everyone else does their budget in spring. They put it off way down into the fall. I wonder why. Could there be 80 billion reasons? Let's find out.
It's okay, Tom. It's okay. There's a happy ending because I know that, listen, I know it, Tom. I know it because all that revenue that we have generated since legalizing cannabis is more than going to make up for any shortfalls, right?
Bad news.
I said happy ending, Korski.
No, sad news there, Mike. You remember when legalization was to accomplish several things? It was supposed to take organized crime out of the marijuana business. That didn't happen. It was supposed to strictly regulate sales to keep pot out of the hands of high schoolers. That didn't happen. It got worse. And it was supposed to make a bunch of money. The feds at one point said minimum $400 million a year in tax revenue, could be as high as $1 billion. They're nowhere near that. In fact, marijuana tax revenue from legal sales is stuck around $244 million. Our favorite part is, Mike, that is an estimate from the finance department through access to information, but that doesn't mean it's cash in hand. What do I mean? Did you know 2/3 of legal marijuana dealers in Canada are behind in their taxes? They're tax delinquent. My goodness, the feds couldn't even make money selling drugs. How do you top that?
You don't. And I'm going to leave it on that note for this week, but we'll try again next. Tom, as always, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski. The federal government couldn't even make money selling drugs. 2/3 of legal cannabis producers in arrears on their taxes. Do you think maybe it's because so many of those shops opened up? I don't know. Anyway, really enjoy the perspective from Tom Korski, managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter. You are encouraged to check it out for yourself. blacklocks.ca. You'll find all manner of things that you might not find elsewhere, very much worth your time and investment when it comes to a subscription at blacklocks.ca. But the ventilator story, well, let's just say it got my blood pressure rising just a wee bit this morning. And we'll try to cool down from here. But whatever you do, don't let the taxpayers find out, because there is some high reputational risk for the federal government, given the near $250 million spent on all of those ventilators, some of which, by the end of it all, were just being sold for the scrap metal that they might produce through their weight. Wild times. But the money during the pandemic was just being shoveled right out that door. We are going to stay in a federal political vein as we continue our conversations this morning, because a former MP who lost his seat in the last federal election, which was only a few months ago, back in March, is announcing his intentions to run again. In what election? We'll try to find out. Maybe he knows something we don't, but that conversation is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We already know one of the candidates for the riding of Kitchener Centre in the next federal election. When that election is, I'm not certain, but the candidate for Kitchener Centre running for the Green Party will be former MP for Kitchener Centre, Mike Morris, who joins the program this morning. Mike, good morning.
Morning.
Do you know something that we don't know? I mean, we're just a few months removed from a federal election, and we're already preparing for the next.
Yeah, well, the one thing I know is from running in 2019 and 2021 and 2025, I know that the sooner we start, the stronger we'll be. It means more time to connect with volunteers and connect with supporters and connect with folks right across our community, whether that's knocking on doors or this past Sunday afternoon in a living room, hearing from folks for the first time. And so we don't, of course, know in a minority parliament when an election might come. But I wanted to be honest with the community as soon as you know, I had a baby this summer. My partner and I did. And so as soon as I kind of came up for air from that and was able to focus here, wanted to let the community know, knowing that, the longer the runway we have, it will only give us more time to build more support, getting ready for whenever that election might be. And you know what? Might be sooner than some folks might think.
As soon as this fall when the budget's released?
Well, what we've seen in the past, in 2021, that election came along within only 2 years of the previous one. And I'm told from some of the political science folks, the average is 18 months or so, particularly when, the governing party sees, poll numbers that have them believe that they could change the outcome. So all those things are out of my control, but what is in my control is letting the community know as early as possible. Pretty much just finished saying thank you to all the folks who took lawn signs last time. And so, I wanted to make sure folks knew as soon as I was able about what my intentions are and what they can expect from me over the coming years.
One of the things that we have learned early in this latest minority parliament, Mike, is that Green Party leader Elizabeth May, who was the only other Green representative in the House of Commons with you while you were there, is resigning from her role as the leader of the Green Party. And it leaves a lot of questions around the party itself. Did you have any reservations about standing or putting your name forward again for the Green Party?
Oh, no, not at all. For me, it's so obvious that the Greens are the only party that allow me to put our community first and allow me, in my time as an MP for almost 4 years, every day I was focused on the concerns of our community and then making progress for people rather than scoring some political point. Or being, focused on filibustering a committee or some other partisan nonsense. I'm so glad that as a Green, I get to be focused on making progress for folks in our community. Of course, as I've shared on your show before, I really appreciate Elizabeth's leadership. And with her announcement, there's kind of a timeline she's put in place with the party. And so I'll be taking cues from the party on that process. But for me, it's about the only party that doesn't tell their MPs how to vote and what to say and allows me to focus on our community.
You mentioned earlier, Mike, having run in 2019, 21, 25, and now planning again in 26, 27, whenever that next election rolls around. Where do you get the energy from? What is it that makes you want to step forward again?
Well, I think it starts with just knowing I just can't think of a better way of serving our community than going back to Ottawa, having had the experience of all of the opportunities, whether it was, fighting for the Canada Disability Benefit. Checks began going out to July to hundreds of thousands of folks with disabilities living in poverty. Where else could I put my time to have an impact like that? Having the chance to speak up for human rights, to take the cases of folks in our community to decision makers and meaningfully improve their lives. That is something incredibly special. And I really feel like we were just getting started. That same disability benefit was meant to lift folks above the poverty line. We all know it doesn't. I was able to get an amendment to make sure it is indexed to inflation forever, but there's so much work to do on rising grocery prices. You and I have talked a lot about the housing crisis we are in. We've talked about electoral reform. We've talked about all of these issues that remain that I'm really keen to continue to make progress on behalf of our community. I guess the other side of it, though, too, Mike, you talk about where my energy comes from. There were volunteers in our community who were making calls all summer to be thanking supporters and also to be engaging with our donors. We've seen a tenfold increase in monthly donors to the Greens in Kitchener Centre just in the last few months. And I'm also just so encouraged feeling all of the support that's out there, knowing that those are the same folks who will be joining me whenever an election's called to get back to knocking on doors. But it really starts with the fact that I got that fire in my belly still, and I know that I can make a difference for folks in our community in doing this work because I've done it before, and there's still so much work to do.
In the election earlier this year, Mike, you were less than 400 votes short, an awfully close race. What did you learn from that experience?
Well, Mike, you and I actually spoke about that in the days after the election, and I feel the same way now as I did then. I think one of the things for me to reflect on, rather than externalizing to other factors, is being just more clear with folks how much work it takes to get elected or re-elected as a Green. In a way, I feel like almost the job might be a bit easier because of the way that the party allows their MPs to focus on their communities, but that focusing on your community first means putting in the work. And so I will be in this conversation and others to come. It's part of why we're starting as soon as we are, is to let folks know the things they can do in the short term if they want to support. Folks can jump in as a monthly donor, for example, to power this grassroots organizing we're going to be doing. They can already start joining in to volunteer and make phone calls. We'll be knocking on doors again as well, of course, as is my good friend Ashlyn Clancy, our Green MPP. And I'm going to continue to show up for folks who want to host me in their homes and backyards, to hear from their neighbors and friends and families, to make sure I stay connected to the concerns of folks right across our community. And so that's something, kind of a lesson for me from last time, is making sure folks know and that I share very directly how much I'm going to need folks' help for those that want to see a return to the work we were doing. And I'm going to do that, in conversations like this one and over the months to come.
I don't know how much runway is ahead between now and that writ dropping for another federal election, but I'm sure our paths will cross and there will be a chance for more of these conversations. Thanks for being here this morning, Mike, and good luck.
Hey, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back again.
Enjoy your day. Yep, bye-bye. Mike Morris has announced that he will once again stand for the Green Party in the next federal election, wherever or whenever that election may take place. So just to draw back the curtain a little bit for you here in politics, I mean, sort of the front of house that we see is a person putting their name forward, running in an election. We hear from them during the campaign. We cast our ballots beside their name, somebody else's name, whatever it happens to be, and the results are tabulated. But there's so much more with the party machine, if you will, in behind the scenes, the sorts of things that are happening at the riding association level, where fundraising can be conducted, et cetera. And the official declaration of one's candidacy opens up a few more of those doors, or allows one to pull a few more of those levers when it comes to, flat out fundraising events like that to get some money into the coffers for the election campaign, et cetera. I would suspect that's sort of what we're seeing here with such an early declaration. We're only months removed from the last federal election, but Mike is making it clear that he intends to run in the next one, and that will allow him, as a party candidate, to access party resources, et cetera. One other thing I will say is, as you probably know, I have the tremendous privilege through this job to get invited to all kinds of different places and things and participate in events in this community. And I see Mike almost everywhere. If you didn't know any better, you'd swear he was still the representative for Kitchener Centre. So he certainly has not slowed down in that regard. And he fully intends to carry that momentum into the next federal election. Again, whenever that happens to be. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Centre for an update. And then the curtain will rise on a new theatre season at a community theatre in Cambridge. Plus, diversifying the face of the trades in our region. Those conversations coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you have listened to this show for more than a minute, you probably know that we are big boosters of the arts on this program. And then, yes, my bias is showing through as a former high school drama kid, but love what is made available to us on stages, in concert halls, all kinds of performances around this region. And we love to do our best to shine a light on that. And so we take this opportunity to tell you about the upcoming season for the Cambridge Community Players. They have announced their 4 performances, and the first of them will start next Friday, the 19th of September. Joining us to talk more about it, Marley Sullivan is here, who will be involved with Trifles, one of the Killer One acts, starting that season next Friday. Marley, good morning.
Good morning.
And Mallory Carson is with us as well. Mallory is involved in Murder by the Book, the other of those Killer One acts to start the season next week. Mallory, good morning.
Good morning.
Marley, if I could start with you, how are we feeling a week and a bit out from the start of a brand new season with the Cambridge Community Players?
I think we're feeling really excited. I would say that all of our cast seem like they're ready to go. We have 1 week out, so we're about to kind of get into the thick of things before we get audiences in there. But I feel like the theater's just kind of buzzing with excitement as we get into this next season.
And Marley, what about you?
I'm feeling really excited. I feel very confident.
Wait a minute. Did I get people mixed?
You got Marley, and then you got Marley again. It's the two M's.
I am so sorry. All right. So, Marley, if I may, how about Cambridge Community Players? Can you tell us a little bit more about the organization?
Yes. So, the Cambridge Community Players have been running for decades and decades, and we're jumping into another big, fun, exciting season. We have auditions coming up for our third show. We just started rehearsals for our second show of the season. So we kind of have like a whole ship of everyone working together to get everything going. We just freshened up the theater this summer with new paint. So it's one of those things where you have to come check it out and feel the excitement as we jump into this next season.
How can people learn a little bit more about what you do?
So you can find more information about us on our website, as well as following us on our social media channels. We're super active on there, so we post all about what we have coming up and other cool things happening in the region you should know about.
All right. So that website, just so folks know, CambridgeCommunityPlayers.com. Mallory, Murder by the Book, one of the Killer One acts that's going to launch the season next Friday. Tell me more about it.
Well, if you like to laugh, you'll like Murder by the Book.
Wait a minute. I'm going to be laughing at
Murder by the Book was written by Sarah Teasdale and sponsored by Louise Penny. So it has a great pedigree for mystery lovers. And it is a confusing mess of absolute delight and intrigue.
How do you bring a confusing mess of absolute delight onto the stage so that audiences can take it all in?
You cleverly get yourself 8 very talented actors and a marvelous crew, and off you go.
And I think that from my previous conversations with Cambridge Community Players, Mallory, we know that there are plenty of talented people stepping forward to take part in these productions.
Yes, we're so lucky. We have wonderful people interested in doing all of the aspects of theater, and it's fun for everyone. If you have any kind of talent or any kind of interest, we got a spot for you.
So Murder by the Book is one of those Killer One acts that launches the new season next Friday. And Marley, you are involved with Trifles. Tell us more about that.
Well, Trifles won't be making you laugh. This one's the much heavier dramatic piece coming into the 2-1 acts, and this one takes place in the early 1900s and explores how the roles of men and women affect a possible murder trial.
So what's it like with a double bill to start things off next Friday, Marley?
It's really interesting. So we had to kind of work together to create a set that would, with the colors on the walls, match both places, because the first play obviously takes place in a library and the second one takes place in a farmhouse in the 1900s. So we had to get a little creative. And then it's all about kind of playing around with what props and set pieces we use to kind of bring each piece to life.
How have the rehearsals gone to date to make sure that, everybody's in the right place and we're all getting along just fine?
They've been going super well. So both plays have had their own opportunities to rehearse separately, so we were kind of ready when we hit the stage. And now that we're rehearsing together, we're getting used to kind of making sure, okay, this prop is where it needs to be for the first show, and this set piece is where it needs to be for the second show, and kind of bringing that magic together. So that's what we're working on for the next 2 weeks as we come into opening next Friday.
Mallory, can you tell us a little more about that stage? Because the theater on Water Street South is just a little gem.
Isn't it a wonderful gem?
We're
is. So lucky to have it. I think we are the luckiest theatre group in Ontario to have that building. and it's had a lot of updates. We've been painting, and we have brand new lights for the stage, and we're working on getting new ones for the audience area as well. The house lights are going to be much different. The stage, we have so many talented people helping us with all of the equipment and set pieces that we have created an amazing set. And it does look like one is a library and one is a farmhouse. Yeah.
So
the stage is quite big enough for all of those needs. Lovely big backstage, and you can't see it, but above the stage there's a lot of storage area for all our flats, and we have scads of room, lots of opportunity for fun.
I love that this theater continues to give the way that it does to the performers and what you're able to experience working on it, and then, of course, to the audiences as well. Killer One Acts, Murder by the Book, and Trifles opening next Friday, September the 19th, as a new season of the Cambridge Community Players gets underway. Mallory, how can people get tickets and enjoy these shows?
You can buy them online, or you can call the box office. The number is on the website.
Excellent. I think in theater parlance, I should say to both of you, break a leg. Really looking forward to the upcoming season, and thank you both for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mallory Carson and Marley Sullivan joining us with the Cambridge Community Players. Their new season, 4 shows in total. Maybe you can call it 5 because it's a couple of one acts, a double bill to start things off next Friday night, the 19th of September. Mallory is involved with Murder by the Book. Marley is involved with Trifles, 2 decidedly different tones in the productions, but you get them both on stage starting next Friday. And that particular show runs through the 28th of September. You can get tickets and learn more about the Cambridge Community Players by visiting their website, cambridgecommunityplayers.com. We love the arts. We want to support the arts. So many great things going on in our community, and the Cambridge Community Players, just one of them that we feature here this morning. All right, a quick timeout. When we come back, diversifying the faces we see in the trades in this community. How do we go about doing that? We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, well, now that we've got the ground rules established here in the studio, I love my in-studio guests, and meeting one for the first time today who describes herself as a data nerd. These are my favorite nerds. Why don't we just start right there? Eden Hennessy, Department of Psychology, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and a data specialist. I'm just going to use data nerd, Eden. Is that okay?
I prefer that.
Thank you. From the Wilfrid Laurier University. Good of you to be here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Jeff McIntyre with us, President, Grand Valley Construction Association. Mr. McIntyre, good morning.
Good morning.
And Mandy Bujold from the Grand Valley Construction Association joins us as well. Mandy is the manager of industry and community partnerships. You collect titles like you collect medals in boxing. That's what you do.
There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jeff, if I can start with you. Working on a new photo research exhibit with Wilfrid Laurier University to maybe show the face of the trades or increase the diversity of those faces?
Yeah, a combination of everything. And again, thanks for having us. I regular listening to this show, and I was thinking on the way in, but once a week I want to jump through the radio and grab someone who is not providing data, but is providing commentary, right? So, and you're very good at articulating, so thanks for this opportunity to bring it through. So if you visualize a construction worker, someone on a shovel, someone having a wheelbarrow, someone holding a level, it's not a diverse thought in most people's mind, and that's the reality of the situation. We are at 5% of the population are on the tools, 15 to 20% of the population that in construction maybe, but a lot of them are in the office. So it's the traditional role of construction skilled trades is not that of women. So bringing Mandy into the organization to be the face of that and kind of broker that discussion, and then ultimately partnering with Eden and the team on what does construction look like and what does the future of construction look like is exactly what this project is all about.
I love that. And Mandy, you come to this with the perfect perspective, quite frankly, because when we traditionally, certainly before you helped us see the face of boxing a little bit differently, but you were completely different from what we would expect in the traditional boxer. So what was it like for you in that space pursuing your sport?
Yeah, I think it's always a challenge. It's something that, sometimes you walk into a room and that's the last thing people would expect, which sometimes opens up a conversation, right? It allows you to kind of explain that and make your place in that industry. And I'm finding the same thing within construction. It's been really cool to see a lot of the parallels from, the first time I walked into a boxing gym, the first time you walk on a construction site as a female, it's very, very similar, right? It's a little nerve-wracking. You're outnumbered, you look around, right? Try to figure out, okay, where do I fit in here? Who's the person I go to feel comfortable right away? So it's been really interesting to have some of those conversations with women on sites, with women in the office, just to see some of those parallels.
So Eden, what does construction look like today?
Well, so I want to tell you about, a physicist, a social psychologist, which is what I am, and a boxer walk into a project. And you might think that's a really unlikely group of folks, and you'd be absolutely right. But the reason that we're joining together is to try and get a comprehensive data-based understanding of what construction looks like. From the Canadian context, our data is poor. It is scarce. We really face a challenge where often people say, data is the floor. We need to have an understanding of what folks' identities are, experiences are, or how the heck are we going to respond to challenges like underrepresentation or taking action? And so often people are left with a huge question mark. And so currently, as Jeff alluded to, some of the data shows that about 5% of folks in skilled trades are women. You might be asking to yourself, well, that's interesting. There's a lot of kinds of women out there, right? Women don't just have gender identity, but we also think about women of different races, women of different identity groups. We have almost no idea what the identities of women in construction and in the skilled trades are in Canada. And that is really underlying our interest as the Centre for Women in Science at Wilfrid Laurier in understanding this. Typically, we've looked at things like STEM, so science, tech, engineering, math, natural, and physical sciences. But as Mandy highlighted, walking into somewhere like a boxing ring and also a construction site and also a chemistry lab can be a very, very paralleled experience. And so we're trying to bridge all of those different areas by looking and collecting data, which is something we're asking folks to do through the exhibit that's permanently installed at Grand Valley.
I love it. So how do we improve this data? You started by saying how poor it is. How are we going to improve it?
Call me.
Just call the data nerd. It's like a bat signal in the sky.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just like a big pi symbol that we shoot up there, and we all know. No, a part of it is asking folks to visit the office at headquarters of Grand Valley Construction Association, where they have so kindly blown up these massive 6x4, 7x4 images from our photo research exhibit, which show portraits of real women in construction and different trades. And then there's a QR code that you can quickly complete a little pilot study. That pilot data will be our basis for launching a national study. And so we're inviting at this point partners, investors, those who might be interested, who say, what is the data and how are we going to move forward? Not just guessing and saying, well, women are underrepresented, but actually, to what extent? Women have different experiences. What are those experiences? And so it's an open invitation to participate right now in this data collection.
Why is this important, Jeff?
I mean, when I joined the industry and the association, we were talking about future challenges. So why it's important is just simple demographics. There's 700,000 people leaving this industry in the next 5-10 years. The numbers change periodically, but who's going to fill those roles? And I mean, I say this, there may not just be enough dudes to do this. So the question I always, and Mandy, we've talked about this too, and with Eden, is this a numbers game? If we wait a couple of years, is it going to work itself out?
Nah, brah. To be straight up. No, and I think we have enough compelling evidence from different fields that we have comprehensive data on, like the sciences, which have typically been a focus of where we've collected that data. And folks have asked the same question. What if we just wait in academic science? Will this sort of solve? No. The data very compellingly that has been modeled by different scientists show that it will be hundreds of years in academic science. I would ask folks why we would think construction would be any different, especially given we're starting with such a dearth of data.
Mandy, Jeff shared with me some of these photos that do exist showing women in the trades, and they're quite compelling. When you see them, like, what goes through your mind? How do they make you feel and respond?
I mean, the first time I saw them, I was blown away. They're beautiful images. Hillary, who took those images, I know very well, and she does such a great job just depicting, the characters of the women and their personalities. And, sometimes it looks, we've actually asked people to kind of give comments on how does that make you feel. And when you see them, they are all alone in their image. So that is something that comes to mind. Some of the other pieces that it shows is just there's one girl and she is wearing, I think it was Vicky, she's wearing an oversized coverall while she's working. So just not having proper fitting PPE is another piece, right? That just becomes a small element of making sure people feel like they belong in that industry. So it's not only attracting them, but keeping them there. And I think the really cool thing for us is having these images in our office. We actually have it in a space where we are bringing new people into the industry, and they have to sit in that space for 4 weeks as they're learning new things about the industry. So our hope is that they then go out into the industry when they're going into their placements, and that becomes the norm. So it's a small step for us, but obviously, as you heard from Eden, that we need to keep moving this forward. We need to keep doing things that are getting people talking, getting the data that we need to be able to actually make real change.
Eden, you said earlier, this isn't going to self-solve. So what is required of us to ensure we move these goalposts?
Well, like any diagnostic, and I will make this a bit clinical. If we're, for example, looking for a medical diagnosis, we would require a number of tests and data to make that determination. And we're really in a stage now where we're asking through our initial survey, what actions should employers be taking? Right now, the preliminary data indicates that the number one priority from our small sample that we have is to take action around things like gender bias. And so that immediately tells us, okay, that is something that folks can do. I would encourage everyone right now, other than participating in this data collection and getting in touch with, any of our organizations to be a part of this, is to start thinking about some of those things that we've assumed are a given, right? So that people know, for example, when something happens in the workplace, they know how to get support that they need. We shouldn't assume that. We need to make sure those mechanisms are in place the same way that we would. Everybody has an automatic response. What do you do when there's a fire or an emergency? We call 911. We want to get it that automatic with folks where they know these are the things we need to do to support women succeeding in the workplace. And so a part of our data collection is actually going to be determining what those priority actions are as sourced from the community themselves. And so it's not, a group of academics who have zero idea. We're asking the folks themselves, right? And if you don't know something, just ask. And it's amazing what people will tell you. It is amazing. So please do, in terms of taking those actions, like getting in touch with us, starting a conversation, participating in this data collection, and maybe partnering with a group of us who are going to drive this forward with national organizations. So that wouldn't it be incredible if you could go to, a dashboard on a website and you could see by province what these proportions look like. You could see intersectional identities of what different women look like in different spaces. What about gender diverse folks? What are those challenges like? And so I think at this point, we're looking for data because we don't want to be, for the Center for Women in Science, it's incredibly important for us to be always data-based. And so regardless of what that data says, if that data says we're having amazing experiences, let's tell those stories too. And so that's an invitation to others to come into the field when you also read about success, not just challenge.
Jeff, just as we wrap up, you talked about the hundreds of thousands of people leaving the industry. And we talk about it all the time on this show and in our communities about the housing crisis we need to build. So how important is it that we get this right?
We need everyone. And it's that simple in the sense that for us to build, to maintain the infrastructure, for us to build the housing that's required for this community, for us to build the institutions, everything you can possibly think of is touched by the construction industry. Think of the road you drove in, and the car you drove in was built in a factory built by the construction industry. Your house, the office we're sitting in right now, it touches everything. And I think the reality is, if we don't have that, we're going to be big trouble. The population is going to grow regardless, and I think that we're going to need this. And if we can do it right and we can be a leader, as Waterloo Region often is, then I think it's going to set the table and for a national study to make this different. We need everybody, but we want them to feel welcome and we want them to stay in this industry.
It's a great project. Love the chance to talk about it today. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
Jeff McIntyre, Mandy Bujold, Grand Valley Construction Association, Eden Hennessy, Wilfrid Laurier University. On the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey and the Duke.
We are talking baseball every Wednesday morning at this time with the one, the only Blue Jay Hunter, as Ian Hunter joins us in studio, and you, of course, are welcome to be a part of the conversation. Phone lines open as always at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. And who doesn't want to talk baseball these days, because the Blue Jays remain in first place. And Ian Hunter, I don't know if we should call them the Toronto Blue Jays or we should call them the comeback kids, because that was never in doubt last night, right?
No, not up until the top or bottom of the ninth, right? Just a typical Jays win, right? Like I think they were getting no hit through the first 5 innings. Houston's starter goes down early in the game with an injury, so you would figure, that opens the window of opportunity. And no, said the Houston Astros. And so, the Jays have their 43rd comeback of the win, ties the Dodgers for the most in MLB history. It also is the most comeback wins in a single season for the Jays since, drum roll please, 1993.
I was going to guess that year. There you go.
Something good happened that year, I think. There's, I don't know, is it weird to say there's something special about this team? Like it feels, with the way the offense has woken up, it doesn't feel like they're ever truly out of a game. And because, the pitching, it wasn't the greatest pitching performance by Shane Bieber, but he kept them in it, and the bullpen wasn't leaky. And the offense woke up just in time to pull out that victory. So is it hyperbole to say that was the biggest win of the season? I don't think so.
I'll come back to that Shane Bieber start in a moment, because I've got some thoughts about Mr. Bieber, not Justin, but Shane. But social media is such a wild place. I actually deliberately logged on to see the highlight of the Varsho catch, and I believe it was the 8th inning when it's funny. I was kind of half paying attention, and then I heard him hit the wall, and I kind of looked up and thought, what just happened? So I go online then, and people were just ripping on the Blue Jays social media administrator, because they were showing this great a highlight of a great catch when the Blue Jays had scored but 1 run, and the comments were just like, score some runs, score some runs, score some runs, and then 1 inning later, the Blue Jays did just that.
Yeah, I guess lesson 1, Mike, don't read the comments ever. And lesson 2, I mean, that, again, we probably not talking about it very much, but I don't want to say that was a game-saving play, but again, kept the Jays in it. And in the top of the 10th, Vladdy makes I would argue probably the biggest play of that game by gunning down Jose Altuve at third base. That's not something that's going to show up in the box score, but definitely that was a huge turning point for the Jays in that game.
Altuve was out at third base on that play in the 10th by as much as Bo Bichette was out at home plate versus the Yankees. Was it the Yankees?
Yeah.
When he hurt the knee that he's now on the 10-day DL for.
Yeah, that was a really, really bad start to the day yesterday for the Jays, right? Like I thought he might have skirted out of the IL because he did come back after that rain delay in that game on Saturday, but he was out of the lineup on Sunday. And so, yeah, now he's on the 10-day IL. It sounds like, I believe John Schneider said Bichette's not really going to do any rehabbing this week. He's just kind of try and stay off of it. So I believe the earliest he could come back is next Tuesday on the road against the Rays. But this is just me hypothesizing. I think it might be a little bit longer. We may not see him till the Jays are back at home against the Red Sox in a couple weeks, just because when you hear that he's not going to do something for a little bit, I'm kind of leaning towards it's going to take more than the 10 days that John Schneider said.
All right, let's come back to Shane Bieber. I've got a glass half full philosophy on what I've seen so far. Obviously, his first start was maybe more than, I was going to say everything you could have hoped for, maybe more than, with 7 quality innings and just looking like he was none the worse for wear after Tommy John. And then the last couple of times, it was Cincinnati, I believe, last week, where he's touched for 5 in the second inning, but he ends up going 6. Last night, he couldn't quite get to 6, but he's touched for 2 in the second inning again. And he just hangs around and battles and gives you 100 pitches and finds a way to settle down. And I'm not worried or disappointed at all, quite frankly.
No, I think the expectations maybe were a little too high going into Bieber's debut, because again, keep in mind, this is a guy rehabbing from Tommy John. He's not going to be all the way back, but he looked spectacular in that first start against the Marlins. And that one in Cincinnati that you mentioned, all his hits, I believe the hits and the runs he gave up in the second. After that, he cruised the rest of the game. He didn't give up any other hits. So Bieber is this type of pitcher who can really make these adjustments on the fly. And if he's getting knocked around, he's going to try something else. So, he didn't have his best stuff last night. He only threw strikes 56% of the time. Didn't really have a good grasp of the strike zone. And the Astros were all over his fastball, but he made the adjustment. And I think in any other situation, maybe John Schneider gives him a little bit more rope to kind of to finish that game and get a quality start. But he was 1 out away from doing that last night and wasn't utterly dominant. But as he said, he grinded through it, right? Like, I think most people, if you had to give the ball to a guy on this team to start a game, it would still be Shane Bieber, right? Like Jose Barrios, for example, it's still quite tumultuous when he gets on the mound. You don't know what you're going to get from him. He hasn't had a good run as of late. Whereas Bieber, he tends to keep the ball in the park, doesn't walk a lot of guys, and works his breaking ball and his off-speed pitches really well.
You mentioned earlier, Ian, that the bullpen wasn't leaky last night, and this was a source of concern for many fans, for you and I, when we talked about a week ago. It just seemed like the bullpen couldn't get anybody out at the time. And I confess to still being a little bit nervous every time I see Brendan Little emerge from the bullpen. Yep. But I'm like, okay, anyway, even Jeff Hoffman last night was everything the Blue Jays needed to keep the game within striking distance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small sample size. I think I saw the last 4 games, the Blue Jays bullpen has only given up 1 earned run, I believe. And yesterday they only surrendered 2 walks. That's kind of been this bullpen's fatal flaw in the second half, has been the free passes. And Brendan Little has authored many of those in the second half. But yeah, they really turned things around and kept the team in that game. I mean, that could have easily gone sideways late in the game, and especially in extra innings for Hoffman to kind of bear down after Vladdy gunned down Altuve at third base and to get those final outs. I seem to think they might be turning this thing around. It always, what is it? It's always darkest before the dawn, right? And it seems like, it felt like the Blue Jays bullpen was going to be the undoing of this team at the end of the regular season, but they've got time to figure it out, right? Like, this isn't the end of the season. They've still got several more games, hopefully the postseason as well, too. So it was a rough patch there. Every team seems to go through it. I mean, the Jays were not immune to this. Neither the Yankees, Dodgers. Just look at every single top contender. They've had a bullpen that has not performed well, but I think the Jays are really righting the ship here.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter. He joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 to talk some Blue Jays baseball. First place Blue Jays, that is, with as many comeback wins as the Los Angeles Dodgers, our Blue Jays, have. We'll continue the conversation, and you're welcome to be a part of it on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m., the one and only Blue Jay Hunter. Ian Hunter joins us in studio to talk some Blue Jays baseball. Another comeback win for the boys in blue last night as Toronto maintains a 3-game lead on both the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox for the lead in the American League East. Let's go to the phones, hear from you about the Blue Jays today. Preston Paul, good morning.
How's it going, guys?
Great, buddy.
Gotta be liking those Blue Jays.
We sure are.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on Bo Bichette's lack of sliding in the home plate, pulling his legs back. He needs to have those spikes facing towards the catcher, so maybe he might not get down there and block that plate like he did.
Yeah, that was a really kind of awkward play. My first instinct was, why didn't he slide head first into that? But by the time Austin Wells had got the ball, I think the rule is, like, once you've got the ball, you can block the plate. Yeah. So Bichette really didn't have anywhere to go, and it kind of freaks me out to have a runner going head first into someone's shin, right? So that, I think of all the scenarios that could have happened at home plate, that was maybe the best for Bichette to avoid a really serious injury. But yeah, my first instinct when I saw that play, I felt, okay, he's going head first and sliding around him. But I think he just didn't have room, so he just kind of had to go shin first into the catcher.
Yeah, that's why I would have liked to see those spikes kind of go in up and not him bend his legs in so he couldn't get his legs out, like what they taught us back in the day, right? So.
Yeah, and the plays at the plate with the new rules now, it's not quite as vigilante as it used to be. I think if you had like a Pete Rose or someone, you would just
exactly who I was thinking.
I knew you were thinking him. You would just barrel into that catcher, but now they really want to protect those guys at the plate.
Yeah, and that play Guerrero made in the 10th inning going to the third, that was great. But then again, Altuve, apparently he did a little bit of lollygag as he was leaving second base, and that come back to bite him. So it looked good on him. So
yeah, it totally worked out. I mean, in an alternate universe, Vladdy throws that ball, maybe it skips past Barger, and Altuve scores the run. But that was just a huge baseball IQ play that you don't see many first basemen even attempting that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And Paul, thanks very much for the call. He's playing like a $500 million man.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like the bat's okay. He's not hitting 50 home runs, but it's been a very nice year for Vladdy in the first year of the contract.
I would say so. Like, obviously the home runs aren't there. That's the big counting stat that everyone wants to talk about. But if you look at everything else, average, on base, slugging, he had a 3-for-5 night last night. In the month of September, he's 17 for 33. So this is the dude with Bo Bichette down. Somebody's got to pick up the slack, right? And to me, the number one guy it's going to be is Vlad. Secondarily, George Springer and Alejandro Kirk. But we also didn't talk about Vladdy legging out that ball in the bottom of the 10th, too. Like, that was a ball up the middle. It could have been easily thrown out at first base, but he gunned it down there and kept that inning going and helped the Jays win the game too.
Yeah, great points all around. One more quick thing on Bo, because when we were talking to Paul, he gets me thinking about it and the whole awkward nature of the slide and what happened. He was dead to rights.
Yeah.
Did Carlos Febles, or however, I always call him Feeblies, but anyway, did he forget that Aaron Judge wasn't in right field in that game because Judge can't throw? Or was it because it started to rain and they wanted to get back to even so they wouldn't get it called and lose? He was just out by so much. I wondered about the decision to send him.
I think it was a good send. The Yankees, I believe Buck mentioned this on the broadcast, but the Yankees don't have a ton of outfield assists this year, whether that is taking advantage of Aaron Judge's bum arm, or I believe that was Cody Bellinger who made that throw. Yeah. He's not a guy who traditionally is a good somebody who's good at throwing guys out at home plate. So I think in that case, you're willing to take the risk. unfortunately for the Jays, it just didn't work out. But that was I will give credit to Bellinger. It was a heck of a throw. It was on the money. I thought, if anything, that might have taken Austin Wells up the first base side, and then Bo could have slid around. But it was totally on the money, and the Jays didn't really have a shot there.
Yeah, great point. The throw was perfect, and it had to be, and so that's what we end up with. Back to the phones. Walter, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, I just want to send out a personal thank you over to Altuve for screwing up those two plays that he did from second to third, and that throw to first. I think the outcome would have been a lot different if he would have been hustling. He's probably eating a little bit of crow here this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Caleb Joseph on the Blue Jays broadcast said that last night, that Altuve didn't really book it once the ball was put in play, and you really can't make it up. Once you're out, you're out. Like he was out by a mile at third base, and he also kind of stepped in front of the Astros shortstop to make that throw to try to get Vlad as well. I think if Pena makes that play, Vladdy's probably out, but for some reason Altuve just kind of got in front of him and decided to quarterback it and make that play himself. So yes, I would definitely, if you want to send flowers down to Jose Altuve's locker room, I'm sure he would appreciate it.
I love it. Great call, Walter. Thanks for that. So this is where we're at, Ian. By my count, 18 games to go, and the Blue Jays leading the division by 3 games over both the Yankees and the Red Sox. And am I doing the math right? The Red Sox have fewer games left. They've only got 16,
they have 16,
I think.
Yeah.
16 left for the Red Sox. Both the Yankees and Blue Jays, I think I'm seeing here, have 18 left.
That's correct.
Okay, so what does this look like for the Blue Jays to hold on to and win? Should I even say it out loud? Like, win the division?
I would, first of all, I think they need to set their sets higher. I think they've got to be one of the top 2 teams in the American League, because then that way you get the bye out of the wild card series altogether. But to win the AL East, I mean, they haven't done this in 10 years, right? I would certainly love to do that. So if the Jays have 18 games left, if they go 500, if they go 9-9, the Yankees need to go 13-5, or the Red Sox need to go 12-4 in their final 16 to overtake the Jays. We also keep in mind the Jays have tiebreakers over the Yankees and the Red Sox. So if they both tie with similar records at the end of the year, the Jays have the tiebreaker and would be potentially winning the American League East, even if they all tie for the same record. So it's achievable. I would say set your sights higher than 500 ball. I think if the Jays go 10-8 or 11-7, I think that would they should be able to coast pretty comfortably, not just into the American League East title, but one of the top 2 spots in the American League.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Just a chance, eh?
Always a chance.
12-4 or 13-5 for the Yankees and Red Sox to overtake the Blue Jays if the Blue Jays play 500. I mean, that's a tall order for those other teams.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're eating crow next week.
Sure.
If the Jays have a bad weekend here, but I think if they just hold steady and they tread water, maybe win one or two, like win a few series here and there, I think they'll be okay.
And am I analyzing this right, too? Just as I look at the standings, the Jays are a half game up on the Tigers.
That's correct.
So the destiny, the Blue Jays control the entirety of their destiny right now.
Absolutely. It always helps when you've got teams beating up on each other, but I think if the Jays take care of business, they should be able to do this thing.
We do have to play the dreaded Tampa Rays, which we don't often do well against.
In Tampa Bay.
In Tampa, which is, oh my God, forget the Trop, right?
Yeah.
And we have a series with the Red Sox still to come.
Yeah, some big series. And the Jays are also playing the Orioles. I mean, don't underestimate them. They are a last place team, but they're quite scrappy, and they have been playing a lot better in the second half. So don't just automatically assume the Jays are going to win those games, but they've got some stiff competition coming up here.
Thank you, Jose Altuve. Thank you, Vladimir Guerrero. The first place Blue Jays train keeps rolling on. Thank you, Blue Jay Hunter.
You're very welcome.
Ian Hunter joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock to talk some Blue Jays baseball. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, and the Blue Jays are a first-place club. If they can play 500, just 500 the rest of the way, it's a tall order for either the Yankees or the Red Sox to overtake them for the American League East crown. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. With your coming on. A lot of shouting from the hallowed halls of political power, municipally and provincially, and we will get into both as we're joined by Rob Deutschman. He is our regular guest on Wednesday mornings at this time for Political R&D.
Are we on? I didn't even know we were on already.
We're on, my friend.
Okay.
I played a little Tears for Fears and Shout because I would say...
I picked a song.
Did you?
Yes.
Who did you send it to? Not me.
I sent it to Justine.
Well, Justine, if you're listening...
She's the boss.
She let us down. We had no indication,
you can play it in the middle.
But how am I going to know what it is?
I'll tell you after.
You better... Okay.
Okay, it's Satisfaction.
Devin, if you don't mind, when we come back from commercial break, thank you very much. We're going to do this on the fly.
Because Michael gets no satisfaction.
I get all the satisfaction. Do you know why, Rob Deutschman? Because Doug Ford listens to this show. Do you know how I know that? Because this is what Doug Ford said yesterday.
They should take out those cameras, all of them. If you want to slow down traffic at school, you put the big, huge signs, big flashing lights, crossing area, people will slow down. This is nothing but a tax grab. I've driven by speed traps aren't even close to school areas. It's nothing but a tax grab. So, you know something? Hopefully the cities will get rid of them, like Mayor Del Duca did in Vaughan, or I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly.
It's nothing but a tax grab. If the municipalities don't do it, the premier will do it for them, just like he did with bike lanes. I will say this. I sent the message this morning to our regional officials. Just end it now before it gets messier and more painful. That would be my advice, Rob Deutschman.
I heard you. Your advice was terrible. And
why? Why is that terrible advice?
Okay, it's political R&D. When it's political M&F, I'll sit in your chair, you'll sit in this chair, and I'll ask a question and listen to your answer.
Okay.
So first off, he says Vaughan has paused the program. Vaughan has not killed the program.
Rob, we know what happens.
Okay.
We know what happens.
Hold on. Who's talking right now?
It gets paused and it never comes back.
Who's talking right now?
I'm just helping you. I'm helping you.
No, you're not. You're interrupting. So Vaughan is paused because they're going to deal with some of the issues that come up. This is what I said previously when we've talked about this. And first of all, I'm going to do Rob Deutschman hired in June, hire Rob for the month of June to help solve speed camera derangement syndrome. This is what I'm going to be doing for you.
I'd hire you to cut them all down.
You know, so this is the thing. Vaughan is positive because when you implement a program, then you start to see how do you improve the program to make it more adaptable. This program is successful in Waterloo Region. 2 million people have sped in those zones. 55,000 tickets have been issued. That's 2.5%. That's 5 out of every 200 people have received a ticket in those people who are speeding in those situations. So Doug Ford likes to shoot off. He's in the fire aim point camp, okay? He is way off base, okay? And he just shoots off something. Maybe somebody told him something. And I heard him say at 5 kilometers they're getting tickets too. We clearly know people are not getting tickets at 5 kilometers.
I'll bet you it's 6. And that is something that is really chafing my chaps, Rob.
Okay.
They actually say in the committee meeting, we know the threshold, but we don't release it to the public.
Okay, so
that's not cool.
So you walked into that one. So here's the situation, okay?
You know what the threshold is?
This is enforcement, okay? And I'm going to tell you this. When Chief Crowell comes in, okay, when you have Chief Crowell come in and the next Ask the Chief, you ask the chief, what's the threshold when his officers are out doing speed enforcement? He will not tell you because that is speed, that is safety. That's an issue that they use as discretion. They will not tell you the threshold and will not tell you, the region will not tell you the threshold because that is also a safety issue. And as Doug Spooner's laid out, then suddenly that becomes the speed limit. So if you said, our threshold is 10 and you're 40, now everyone's driving 50. what's the whole point of having it at 40 then? That's the whole point, okay? And they can change. They can change because they have that ability. So you could say, for example, a threshold could be higher in the evening from midnight to 6 a.m. than it is during the main hours. You have that flexibility. But the threshold, it cannot be disclosed. Okay. And you've got all the other information. So you're not going to hear threshold because it's a safety issue.
How can you, and I mean this with utmost respect and sincerity, how can you honestly say with a straight face that this program is working when the public clearly despises it?
Mike,
it's like the cod liver.
Mike.
It's like the cod liver oil of municipal programs.
No.
We know what's good for you. Take your medicine and be quiet.
No.
Well, then how do you tell? How do you say it's
Mike,
working?
Mike, you're doing the same thing. From your pulpit, you're saying you know what's good for us and do what I'm saying. This is what you're saying on this show. You're saying they should be eliminated. Well, it's like I equate this like the hockey dressing room. 1/3 of the guys will love the coach, 1/3 of the guys will hate the coach, and the other third don't really care. And that's like on all issues. You get people on either side of it and the people in between. This program is working because the stats show that speed is down in those areas. The repeat offenders are down. They have the ability now to measure all that. And to suggest that, well, this should be just done by police, this is assisting our police. Police support this program because it's allowing them to deal with other issues. Crime is up, as we're being told, in other areas. So we want our police to focus on those things like retail crime, which we hear about. All of the jewelry store robberies and other things that are happening we see in the liquor stores and everywhere else. So this is assisting police in enforcing the laws in our community. And we don't want to necessarily have to keep hiring more police to deal with these issues when we can supplant that with this program. And so Doug Ford is like, well, just eliminate it. It's a tax grab. It's like a knee-jerk comment. It's not a tax grab. We know exactly where the funds are going. So, for example,
we know the funds are going.
There's a radio show. People don't get to see the face you're making as I'm talking.
Because the funds are going to a 33-person department that we've created at the region. The fund, it is.
Well, yeah, some funds go to administration, Mike.
And to the company in Germany that operates the cameras.
Well, some funds go to operation.
Okay.
You have to purchase these things, Mike.
I get it.
Okay, so the program funds itself. And funds go to, you can't deny that funds aren't going to a reserve for road safety programs. That's a benefit to our community, but you leave that part out. You can't leave that part out.
I'm waiting to see that.
I want to hear you lead with that part.
I will lead
with that because it's in every report.
Who's getting paid first? The camera operators and the staff. Well, when do we get the road safety?
So I'm leading. When you buy a house, you got to pay your mortgage first. Okay, so if you buy equipment, you got to pay for the equipment first.
But we have not yet seen these magical road safety improvements.
The program's just starting.
Exactly. So that's why I'm telling you where the money is going now.
You're showing no patience.
I'm not.
You're showing very little patience.
You should know that about me. I have very little.
I don't know that about you. I don't think you have very little patience. I hear you do that 12 to 1 and taking all those calls.
All right. I think, and I'll leave it on this, the Premier has just given our region a gift. They can walk away from this and say, the Premier made us do it. It's the Premier's choice, not ours. And they can escape all of the political blowback.
The Premier...
Accept the gift.
The Premier's doing a poor job of running this province. I'd like him to focus on things like schools, health, and other things. Look, the Premier they discontinued the consumption treatment sites in our community and gave us heart hubs. Are they operating yet? Do you know?
I thought it was supposed to be April. That's a good question.
Yeah, maybe you could check into that. I don't know for sure. I'd like to know. So, and he talks about, they're going to run school boards. I mean, come on. They're talking, you're talking about $15 flurries or whatever. And I know you like a good flurry yourself.
I do.
But, what about the Greenbelt scandal? How much was that? What about Ontario Place? How much was that? What about the billions lost during COVID? So why don't they get their own house in order before they start looking at dealing with school boards? And then you talk about ideology, Mike. So you want a provincial government, whether it's Democrat, Liberal, or Progressive Conservative, to run a school board when now we have trustees who come from all political stripes at the table working together.
No,
you tell me which is better.
I've softened on that, and I won't get into it now, but I did earlier.
You softened when? In the past half hour?
That's exactly what I said. When it comes, I want the local trustees and the accountability baked into that to stay.
Right. Fine. That's fair.
Okay.
You can do that. But to say they're going to take them over and not start running them, it's ridiculous.
I was in favor of that some months ago. I'm softening.
You said today you could get behind that.
No, I can get behind one school board, one publicly funded school board. Take away, we just need public
Oh,
right?
probably, yeah, English and French.
English
I heard
and
that
French.
part.
Yeah, there you go. See, just pay attention, Rob. I've got all the answers.
I'm half listening.
I know you are. Rob Deutschman, Wednesday mornings, 11:30, some political R&D. The premier, not the only one sounding off. So, too, was the mayor of Barrie. Wait till you hear what he has to say about encampments in the city, just like the encampments we have here. The Mike Farwell Show continues on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied now, Rob Deutschman?
I am satisfied.
Okay. Along with Premier Ford sounding off on speed cameras, the mayor of Barrie, who, by the way, is a former Conservative member of Parliament federally, Alex Nuttall, has said that's it. He has had enough when it comes to encampments in the city of Barrie and the county of Simcoe. He is declaring a state of emergency. Here is a little bit about what the mayor of Barrie had to say at a media conference yesterday.
The County of Simcoe has already offered space to the folks that are over on the street in front of the Busby and along Mulcaster Street. So I think those offers have been going for the last 2 to 3 weeks based on what I've been told. And that allows us to be able to move pretty quickly with trespass orders. And these trespass orders are going to ensure that when a trespass order is given on a city street, it's functional for the entire city. We want folks to get inside. We want them to get help. Barrie is a place that you come if you need and want help. It's not the place you come and put a tent on the side of the road, use drugs, carry crossbows and pistols, and obviously set up shop as a drug dealer. So if you don't want help and that's not your thing, please go somewhere else. If you want help, the County of Simcoe and all of their partner agencies are there to help.
Alex Nuttall, mayor of Barrie, he says the help is offered. If they don't want to take the help, that is their choice.
Yeah.
And if they make the choice to not accept the help, he will remove them and their tent. The reference to pistols and crossbows is in relation to a murder that happened at the encampment, the big encampment in Barrie this summer. He's talking
there's
seriously.
no other murders happening anywhere else, and there's no other crossbows anywhere else, okay? I mean, how simplistic an approach can you take to this issue? We're dealing with people that have mental health issues, drug addiction issues, poverty. I mean, you've got like so many comorbidities that are all colliding in one place. And he's treating it like, well, you have a choice. Here's the treatment. You don't want it? Hit the highway. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that is not the approach from a compassionate public official. And I listened to the rest of that news conference, and I never saw so much pointing to others. And, he said, well, I asked for this state of emergency 4 or 5 years ago when I was a counselor, whatever the heck he was. I mean, this was not a... If he had looked at Belleville, for example, and said, okay, Belleville, if you remember, they had an overdose situation, so they declared a state of emergency about a year ago. Nothing has happened in that year. They may have been receiving some money. I just took a look. There was an article in June. It said in May 2023, the city bought a banquet hall that they were going to convert into a shelter. It was supposed to open at the end of 2024. It hasn't opened yet. It's going to be a 24-hour-a-day hub for services, but they had structural issues. The cost is ballooned from $3 million to $8.5 million, and they're hoping to have it open by the end of the year. So, I mean, this is not a simple situation. I mean, really, you need to continue to work with social agencies. You don't need to declare a state of emergency. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep working with social agencies. Find spots. We need to find some. We've talked about this already, about whether camp tents are here to stay or not stay, and like they've been around forever. I know he's mentioned the locations are an issue, and really, when you talk about and he referenced the Valente decision and the other recent decision out of Waterloo Region. I mean, Waterloo Region's really opened up a hornet's nest when it took the initial application to court on this issue, and not just acted on their bylaw that they had at the time about trespassing. And so now this is a situation where it's life or death, and you have to really balance off the life of the individuals versus the use of the land that they're finding the tents upon. So, for example, when you have the park situations, there's an issue between people in the community being able to use the park versus people being able to put a tent in place for shelter. And the courts have sided a lot of times with people for general use of the park to make sure it's available and open to them. But when it comes to land like the situation at 100 Vic, which is land that the region wasn't using for anything at that particular time. Then the court said, look, if you're not using the land for anything and people want a shelter and their lives are at stake and you don't have enough accessible facilities in your community, then you can't go. And this is the thing with Mayor Nuttall. He's saying, wow, we've got these shelters open, but he's missing the point. Not every shelter fits every individual. And so we're stuck with that situation because of decisions like Valente. Now, can he go ahead and do what he wants to do and move people? If he has a bylaw in place and get the police to enforce it, he can. But if someone steps forward and takes a court action, and that's not always easy to do, and it's not always automatic, that could stop it. But if no one takes a court action and brings it to court, then they will be able to do what they need to do. We saw that Cambridge was able to move some people, and they've taken steps where they have evicted, but they've taken steps where they haven't evicted as well, because it has been complicated by what's going on out there. And I think the best step is for all levels of government, like we go back to again, provide the municipalities with the funding they need because they're at the front line of this issue. They know what needs to be done for their community, and hopefully we can find space. That's the problem. We're not able to find space. You know, we in the region, we're ready to build 50 more cabins, but we can't find the land to do it. And so that's got put off for a year and a half now.
That's one of the problems, Rob, that we can't find space. But you alluded to one of the other problems, and I think this is an underappreciated problem, and it's why I think that encampments are here to stay. To your point, they've always been here, just less visible. That's fair. But really, if we're trying to find accommodation or shelter for every individual to meet their individual needs, we're never going to find it. We just won't.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it will be an ongoing issue, and I think the Valente decision has probably established a standard that I don't think any municipality can meet. Now, and coincidentally, I had an opportunity to interact with Justice Valente on a different matter through my law practice, so I had a great discussion with them. I'm not going to get into it, but I believe, and this is not from Justice Valente at all, but I personally believe that it's established and having been on council and seeing what we need to do to invest and try to do what we need to do, in some cases money is available, but we just can't pull the trigger. It's like build now. You know, there are people there ready to build the homes. We can't find the land to build the homes. So I think that Justice Valente has established a standard that it will be too difficult to meet, to find accessible. Because when you say accessible spaces for all, that means you've got more spaces than the number of people who are homeless. And that number just keeps going up because of the count that we just had recently. And what was interesting is Mayor Nuttall points out, he said, well, 50 to 60% of the people that we have here come from outside the region. Well, don't you hear that about the people we have here too? So everyone's coming from outside the region.
I think there are a couple of things that Mayor Nuttall is accomplishing here. One is, I believe, from what little I know of the man, but I think he's going to use this declaration of a state of emergency to start clearing encampments before anybody brings anything before the courts. That's my belief. It'll start happening quickly.
He doesn't need the state of emergency, Mike. Well, I'm sure there's a bylaw in place like every municipality has. You can't trespass. You can't put a tent up there or whatever. And they can just get the police to enforce it and move them out. The issue comes when someone starts a court action. Okay, and that doesn't always happen because it's expensive. There's limited resources to do that. I know our local community legal services does a great job at it, but they only have so many people, and they're busy right now with the one with the Regional Waterloo.
Sure.
So.
All right, final note. We got about 90 seconds. But the other thing I think that the mayor of Barrie is doing here is speaking to a frustrated population that goes to work every day, pays their taxes. And the gentleman featured on the news story last night in Barrie, I felt for him. There are 12 tents right outside his personal residence where he pays property taxes.
Sure.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is. And that's where the region, we used to say like the King Street shelter. Okay, I mean, we put that in there, but we didn't do a great job in terms of working and reaching out to the greater community.
And that was the former Schwaben Club, the King Street
If
shelter.
you want to have facilities in place and provide the shelter needed, you've got to make sure you're working extra hard, not only on the shelter and the services within it, but also the outreach around that community to make sure that it is a safe space for everybody to coexist. And that is the difficult part. But that requires as much work as the shelter itself.
I think there will be a ripple effect from this, Robert Deutschmann. I really do. From this declaration in Barrie, I have a feeling my spidey sense is tingling.
I think there's a concern when you issue a declaration or make an emergency declaration, the province now has to get involved. I don't think the province wants to see a bunch of these things happen. So let's see what happens. Let's see what they can figure out. I don't have confidence in this provincial government, but we'll see what happens.
Good research on the Belleville piece. I'd forgotten all about that state of emergency.
Came to mind because we did I did a community town hall when I was a regional councillor, and we brought in the fire chief from Belleville, and he talked about what they expected to happen, but clearly it's been a slow go. The money's not there. The province is just not really helping out to the extent that you need. And you don't have the facilities and land and everything else to do what you need to do. It's a tough call for all regions around the province and the country.
Rob Deutschman joins us every Wednesday morning, 11:30 for some political R&D. Thank you, sir. Always good to have you here.
Take care, Mike.
Your call's coming up next. Talkback is just around the corner. Got any thoughts on what we just talked about or anything else from the news today? We'll take them on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Every day from noon until 1, we open the phone lines for you so that you can talk back to us. Let us know what's on your mind, maybe a reflection on an issue we talked about on the show today, maybe something else that's happening in your world and you want to let us know about it. By all means, take advantage of the opportunity to do just that. We'll have a conversation. All you have to do is make the phone call to 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Let us start with my good friend, Jersey Bill. Billy, I got to tell you, I was getting close to emailing you, trying to find you. I haven't heard from you in so long, I was starting to worry. I really was.
Oh, well, old Mr. Number 12 is still around here.
Attaboy.
We were away for a couple of weeks at Crystal Beach, and, I always wanted to call in from there, but we were always doing something with the family, so... and I got back, and, I've just been listening in, but also keeping my ear to what's happening in the States as well, because so much is happening down there. And I have to say, it's as much as you have these horrible problems with speed cameras and, of course, the housing thing, which is ongoing and all that, boy, Canada seems to be a much more stable place than down south, if I might say so.
Well, listen, if speed cameras are our biggest concern, Billy, then you're right. Things are just fine.
Yes, and especially with this, with the great peacemaker, now there's another incursion into Poland and the endless conflict in the Middle East, which he just seems the president just seems not to be able to deal with, and his ridiculous idea of turning the Department of Defense back into the Department of War. I just don't know. I just don't know where his mind is at, and he may have peaceful intentions somewhat, but of course he doesn't show any peaceful intentions toward the people he perceives to be his enemies right within the United States himself. So that makes me sort of shudder a bit, because he seems to have bad intentions at home, and he seems to also have the same problem that other presidents have had, where they have this tremendous military, but they can't seem to be able to employ it properly in order to mitigate against other people who may not have the best interests of the United States at heart, or the world, for that matter. And that just gives me a great deal of pause.
It's great to hear from you, my friend. Don't be a stranger, okay?
Absolutely not. I'll call you again soon.
I look forward to that. Thanks, Billy. Farwell's Force official member number 12. And, it's a good reminder. As frustrated as we are, as frustrated as I am when it comes to this speed camera program, there are bigger issues to sort out. And from one official member of Farwell's Force, Billy at number 12, to another, M in Guelph at number 73, who sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com and pretty much nails it. My frustration is not with the speed cameras per se, or the use of technology to nail people exceeding the speed limit. It's the rather arbitrary nature of the cameras and their locations in our region. You know, we talk about increasing road safety, where these cameras are being put in place on roads that have never seen a collision or injury in their existence. I don't know how you get safer than that. And then there is the reduction in speed limit from 50 to 40 or even 30. So there's a lack of consistency. And I shared this earlier today. You can turn from one street in Waterloo where you went past a school and the limit was 30 onto another street in Waterloo where you go past a school, sort of, because the school is under construction, being rebuilt. There's nobody going there right now. And the limit is 40. That's within 2 blocks. Is it the limit 30? Is it 40? Some consistency would be nice. And really, if this was in the name of safety, the cameras could be active then during school hours, not in the evenings, not on weekends, etc. But nonetheless, I'll leave that there. We were just following the Premier's lead today when he said if cities don't remove the cameras, he's going to help them remove the cameras, and we'll see what happens from there. But Farwell's force out in force today. Number 12, Billy M. in Guelph, number 73. We are 165 strong right now. A force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. And Talkback continues with Grant. Good afternoon, Grant.
You're very calming today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I guess you probably did some meditation to calm yourself down today and be good to your body.
I thank you for noticing, Grant. I am in a state of zen because I have a very exciting afternoon ahead when I'm done with the show.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, this football player, even though he got a fine, I think.
Which football player are you talking about now? The one that spat on another player?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Don't do that.
Even though he got a hefty fine, his job is, I would say, would be on the line. Cause could you do that, or could I do that at my workplace without being reprimanded? And
That's a good question. I mean, I know a lot of places that have sort of a 3 strikes and you're out policy where you get written up once, you get written up a second time, and there are more sanctions, and then a third time you're released. I don't know how it would differ from one workplace to another, but certainly we recognize that it's frowned upon spitting on one another.
Yeah, and if I'm his coach, I'm sorry, if you're the best player and you're acting like this, I don't really want you on my team because you're going to give the other individuals a bad rap. And you're not only that, there's kids that are watching this.
Well, you're right, Grant, and I get where you're coming from. And if you were the coach, but don't ever forget that what we're talking about here is sports, and sports operate in their own little bubble, don't they? And what happens in the field of play or within that arena of play is completely different than what happens in the real world. Yes, this player was heavily fined, and you think he reflects poorly on the team. He might, but all people involved in sports really care about is who's winning and who's losing. And I will remind you that Brad Marchand continues to be celebrated and is a multi-time Stanley Cup champion, and he once licked another player's face right in front of the kids on the ice for everybody to see. So there's that to remember too. Dave is with us on Talkback, Farwell's Force, member number 47, my lucky number. Hi, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. I remember you I had to twist your arm to get it.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to keep it for myself.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Mike, you don't need this, but I'm saying it. I'm going to say something on your behalf that you're loath to say.
Okay.
So
don't now, Dave. You better not speak of a certain team, otherwise I'm going to have to hang up the phone on you.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm talking about one or two callers this morning. one of them was named my name. So I don't want people to get confused.
I gotcha.
I sympathize with the viewpoint of those individuals. And
can you give me more context here, Dave? What were we talking about? What points are they making that you disagree with?
That they were no longer going to listen to your program.
Oh, yes. Dave sent me an email about that. You're right. But it wasn't you.
Correct. That's why I'm calling.
Okay.
But this is a word to the few listeners who feel so negative about certain subjects. And they repeat it, and I would say harping on the subjects. Personally, I sympathize, but that's what makes talk radio and having different points of view, which you strive to envelop in your program. And I feel sorry for those few listeners who feel so threatened and so upset that they become disillusioned and won't listen or threaten not to listen, even though some of them threaten not to listen and end up still listening. So I'm saying I sympathize, but that's not the right attitude to take. And I say hats off to you, even though from time to time I do disagree with you, and I call you in to call you out on it. But I agree with your program and what it represents in our community. So that's all I have to say, Mike. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dave. I hope you have a great day, too. I really appreciate that. And look, I am acutely aware of the repetition when it comes to speed cameras in particular. That's what's got a few people all bent out of shape. Oh, you're talking about it too much. That's it. I quit listening. And that is absolutely your right. I try to bring fresh ideas and conversations to the show every day. But at the heart of it all, the very essence of a show like this is to bring forward the things that you are already talking about. And believe you me, I don't just come here and sit in a studio every day and host a talk show. I am on the same streets, in the same playgrounds, at the same sporting facilities, at the same charitable events that you are. And I listen even when I'm not here. I hear the things you say about the things that are going well in our community and the things that are going less well. And I promise you, the number one issue that continues to come up is our frustration around the speed camera program. So the show is a reflection of that frustration because it's what's happening at a lot of dinner time conversations or dinner parties. People are talking about these things, public events, you name it. And how could we not talk about it today when the Premier raised the issue again and basically said to cities, if you don't take away the speed cameras, I'm going to take them away on you. That's a talking point, whether you're tired of it or not. But by all means, if it does tire you out, you can choose something else to listen to. I hope you'll come back if you go away for a bit. And to Dave's broader point, I hope we don't agree all the time because that would make for a very boring day, wouldn't it? We don't have to yell at each other. We don't have to hang up on each other. If we disagree, we disagree. And we'll have a conversation about why we disagree. You share your point of view, I share mine, and the talk show continues to go around in that circle. That's what it's all about. As we continue Talkback this afternoon, this is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Taking your calls every day from noon until 1 here on the program. Can be a reflection on something we've discussed on the show today or something brand new you want to make us aware of. Let's get back to the phones. Adam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What's on your mind today?
My thing is about the speed cameras. I don't think that they're as bad as everybody's making them out to be. I know that ever since that they've been in place, I definitely have reduced my speed in multiple areas. I used to be that guy that was like, if it was a 40, I can go at least 50. And then that sort of stuff. But as I've noticed, as the speed limits have been coming down, I'm able to exit my street on Blackhorn Drive onto Strasbourg much easier when everybody's going 40 than it is when it was a 50 and people are going 60.
Yeah, you know what? And I get Strasbourg's a great example of a road that I think that we probably abused that 50 kilometer an hour speed limit, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Adam, I'm glad it's working for you. And thanks for weighing in today.
No worries. Thank you.
Appreciate that. See, this is the thing, and I've heard a lot of criticism, and I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I always am, when I get my first speed camera ticket. But from people that are frustrated with me, they just say, you're upset because you got caught. Well, I haven't yet. But one of my frustrations is eventually we all will. I got an email this morning from Annie who said she got her first speeding ticket in 50 years, thanks to the speed cameras. One day, you're going to be in a 30 and drive 42 before you realize it's supposed to be a 30, and you thought 42 was a good speed to be driving on that road, and you're going to get a ticket for 12 over. And I just keep coming back to this point, and that is, those are not the speeders you're looking for. Somebody driving 42 in a road that you changed to a 30. I think that's a little bit ridiculous, quite frankly. But one of these days, I will get caught in one of those places, and I'm even better behaved than Adam is. I roughly go with 10% over. So if it's a 40, you're not going to catch me doing more than 45. If it's a 50, you're not going to catch me doing much more than 55. And how my speedometer is calibrated to the camera, I don't know. But we'll see. The day I get caught, I'll let you know when it comes in the mail. Greg, good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So I've been nabbed a couple times, and I didn't like it. But I was just thinking to myself as I was driving here, why do we speed? Why can't we drive the speed limit?
It's a great question. It really is.
We all admit we speed. So I think that's why the cameras came out, because we can't monitor ourselves for some reason.
If nothing else, Greg, you're right. We're talking about it so much that even people driving on roads where there are no speed cameras are hopefully paying more attention to the speed they're driving.
Well, I do now because I've been nabbed a couple times, and one was for like $300. So I didn't like that. I was in a different city. I wasn't familiar with the streets. I missed the posted speed. I think I was 20 clicks over. But I was guilty. So I think when they take down the speed cameras, they should take down all the speed signs. We just monitor our own speed.
I thought about that, and you're right. People that are complaining like me, that is the end of the story, and I'm not advocating for that, but you make a great point, Greg.
Yeah, just curious as why we can't follow the rules, I guess.
All right. I appreciate the call, and thanks for weighing in, and I'm sorry about that $300 ticket. Ouch, that one stings. Jason, good afternoon. Jason? No more Jason. Jason, if you want to call back, I'll put you at the top of the list. I promise I will. John, good afternoon to you.
Hello, how are you doing, Lord Fardingham?
Lord Farthingham. I like that one. Judge John, nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the speed cameras. Utter and complete tax rip-off by lazy creeps who don't have the guts to raise taxes because they squandered a pile of money. That's my opinion on those things. And the proof is they're on 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And there are no kids in school 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Also, I live near one of them. There's never been a problem of any kind there. No one's ever been injured in an accident. No child has ever been injured in an accident. Utter and complete hypocrisy by gutless politicians.
John, I appreciate the call and the manner in which you got directly to the point. I have been frustrated by this as well, as somebody who lives very near a school, and I defy you to find the vehicle that can travel greater than 30 kilometers per hour when the kids are coming to or leaving from the school, because it's way too busy and way too congested to speed. And the fact that the cameras operate, heck, kids are in school roughly half of the year, about 190 days of instruction. And John gets me thinking of something else. There was a recent report from the CAA that talked about parents saying congestion is the number one problem in their school area. Who's creating the congestion? You, by taking your kids in your car to and from school. If school zones are unsafe when the kids are present, who's making those school zones unsafe when the kids are present? You, when you're dropping the kids off and picking them up again. I find this rather interesting. And we'll continue Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You make the call, we'll answer, and the conversation begins from there. I think Jason found his way back. Let's go there next. Jason, good afternoon.
Mike, you hung up on me. What the heck?
Where were you? I was calling your name and calling your name.
I was there, and I kept on saying hello, hello. Anyways, I think most people can accept the speed cameras, that we're looking to slow people down. I think what bothers people the most, and myself included, is that it's a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year enforcement. And so, if we're really looking about safety for our children, which, again, I have two young children, and I believe in safety for our children, but when they're not in school in the middle of the summer, or I'm coming home after a meeting at 11 o'clock at night, there's no reason I need to drive 30 or even 40 for that matter, with the chance of getting a ticket. I think that's what, if we used a little bit more common sense and just made them, a time of use, I think people could wrap their heads around it a little bit more. Obviously, there's going to be people who are not happy regardless, but just let's look at time of use. We don't have to be punitive every day of the week for the whole year. I'm just hoping, with the Premier's comments, that maybe the region and other municipalities across the province start to review this and say, maybe we don't need to do it all the time. Because, if we're going by statistics, and I know our transportation departments go by statistics say those aren't the problem areas. People aren't dying there. People aren't getting hit there. So we might as well put speed cameras down Fairway Road then, because that's where people are speeding. And so, we can't pick and choose where we think it's best for people to be safe. We need to be safe all across the city. But let's just do a time per use or the seasons or the school year.
Excellent points, Jason, across the board. Really appreciate that. And I know the city of Kitchener, among other lower tier municipalities, right? Cambridge, North Dumfries, Woolwich did a great job in getting some consideration for a rural speed camera program. But they've pushed back against the regional program to say, hey, we've got a better way. This is how we want to do it on our streets. And Jason's absolutely right. The 24-hour a day, 7 day a week, 365 day per year application is utter nonsense. And to the point on the safety, and if we're going to look at statistics to demonstrate safety or the lack thereof, well, if we follow those statistics, we're going to find out that on so many of these streets where speed cameras have been installed, there's never been a collision causing injury and or death. So what are we doing? Lowering the speeds to 30 or 40. If you're coming home from a meeting at 11 o'clock at night, and heaven forbid you're driving 50 on a residential street, remember those signs? Speed limit is 50 unless otherwise posted. You see those coming into every municipality back in the day. I don't think that should be considered the problem we're trying to solve. Somebody daring to drive 48 or 52. To Jason's point, Fairway Road, I've been saying it forever. Homer Watson Boulevard, McQueen Shaver Boulevard, Westmount Road. Start in places like that where people are doing anything but 60 or 70 as the speed limit is posted. Wes, Farwell's Force official member number 108. Good afternoon.
Wow, you remembered, or they told you?
Absolutely, I remember. I've got it written down right in front of me.
Okay, good afternoon, Mike. On those speed cameras, but first I start with what I don't agree with you is your beloved roundabouts. These are really good, but 95% of road users don't know how to use it, including yourself.
Hey, no, wait. I do a good job, I think, Wes.
You do?
I think so.
Okay, I think I should tell
I even use my turn signals. Okay.
Perfect. But police should be trained first and then train users. Because when I go on roundabout, Jesus, I'm scared. Anyway, speed cameras. The last caller, absolutely right. And if you were listening to me before, I would like to point out how much money cities make. And I'm from Guelph. So about a year ago, I wrote to Guelph Tribune or wherever it was online. I found out somewhere, I couldn't find the link anymore, that the cameras, and I'm going to bring tariffs, the cameras are purchased from US. They probably leased, and it cost about $400,000. And what's remaining for city is 15%, somewhere there. And this is the first point. How do they want to make money if so much goes away? Second, safety. And you said it yourself, that speed causes the bigger bang, but it's not the cause of accidents. And I'm going to get to drivers or driving schools. A long time ago, and I don't think it's changed, when I came over, and I am a professional driver, although I'm not driving here in Canada, I'm a professional driver. I drove big devices in the army. I have driver's license from Germany, from Poland. And the guy who teaches me here to drive tells me to change the lane. So I switch on the indicator, check my mirrors, wait the 2-3 seconds, at least in Europe to wait. So if there is a car, it passes you by. I change it, and he yells at me, "Why did you switch on the indicator if there was nobody on the road?"
Oh, come on. Wes, that's what your driver instructor said?
I am not kidding.
Oh, don't ever go back to that driving school.
No, I won't. But as I watch drivers, they rarely change lanes without indicating it. So this is a cause for accidents.
I listen, Wes, I get where you're coming from, and I gotta move on to some other callers who are waiting, because I don't want to get too far down the road. But what Wes is getting at, if I'm following along correctly, is that driving in general, our skills have deteriorated. I really don't like saying that word. Have you noticed how infrequently I say it? Deteriorated gets me almost every time. Anyway, our skills have eroded, or we just don't give a tinker's darn. And Wes is onto something. I would say, though, that speed does certainly cause collisions. Excessive speed, for sure. Kyle, good afternoon.
Forget these speed cameras. That Bleams roundabout is brutal. I went to raised sidewalks, just went over it 4 times, and I've got a pretty big vehicle, and it felt like my bumper was going to hit the roundabout race things that they're doing there.
Pedestrian safety, baby. Pedestrian safety.
Who designs these? Seriously, who designs these to put a crosswalk in a roundabout that's raised? They can't see other vehicles coming on the other side, and then they're saying it's supposed to make traffic flow faster. Now I got to go down to 5 kilometers an hour to go over these stupid speed bumps to slow everybody down in front of me, so that way I can get going again once I'm done through that roundabout. Who designed this, Mike? The engineers? Because they need to go and look at other parts of the world where they do it a lot better than what we do here. Like, agree or disagree?
I mean, anything that makes the pedestrians safer. I would take the pedestrians out of the roundabouts. I haven't been over this yet, so I don't know. Maybe my vehicle will handle it better.
Go over it. Go over it tonight, Mike. Go see how brutal it is.
Okay.
It's stupid. Take the pedestrians out of the roundabout.
Please do that.
Move them around there. I understand safety pedestrians, but move them, because you're going to slow down traffic. It's going to bottleneck, and then it's going to be a joke. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Kyle. Thanks for the call. I hate roundabouts. I hate them. I hate them. Sorry, I'm not. My good friend Neil Aitchison tells me, Michael, don't use that word. I'm sorry, Neil. I really am. I strongly dislike roundabouts. Never liked them from day one. Andy, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. Going back to about your third caller ago with this timing of the day versus the in respect to the school zones.
Yes, sir.
I know in the Preston part of Cambridge, as one example, they have signs 40 kilometers per hour when flashing.
Beautiful thing, Andy. It's a beautiful thing.
Now, why the hell isn't that adopted across the region? Like, are they the only ones that make any sense to this? You know, they probably go on for the whole school day, I would imagine. And then they're off at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it's residential, so it goes probably by default to 50 kilometers an hour.
Andy, I'm with you. It seems like such a simple thing to do. I hope we do it. I really do.
Yeah, me too, Mike. It'd be nice if it universally adopted.
Great call, Andy. Great suggestion. Way to go, Cambridge. Way to go, Preston. We're figuring it out, right? It shouldn't be that hard. And yet, here we are. We'll take more calls. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Busy Talkback Hour, just the way I like it. I want to talk to all of you. So let's continue. Don, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. I'm with you with all of this about the speed stuff. I mean, the 24/7, the very restrictive speeds on busy roads, et cetera. But one of the problems is they never made the transition from imperial to metric speeds. They reduced them dramatically below. I mean, most of these roads used to be like, 35, in some cases 40 miles an hour. And when they went to metric, they knocked it down even worse. So, but I've got another one for you. We've had this ongoing thing with e-bikes and, whatnot lately. And on the 30th of August, there was an incident/accident just on Queens Boulevard between the Highland Center and Fisher-Hallman. Road was blocked off, emergency vehicles, blah, blah, blah. And a couple of days later, a neighbor said to me, did you hear about the accident on Queens? I said, well, yeah, I saw it the other day. But, you couldn't get near it because the road was blocked off. And she told me that the rider of an e-bike was killed in this accident. I have seen no press or coverage of it, whatever. Have I missed something or...
Perhaps. We did talk about it actually when Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell was on a week or so ago. And it turns out, Don, if you can believe it, if I'm thinking of the same incident, it was an electric unicycle of all things.
Okay.
But just an awful outcome, yes, by, oh my gosh, the name of the mall. What is escaping me? But anyway, thank you, Highland Hills Mall, yes. Anyway, yeah, so that's what happened.
Well, I was just surprised because I didn't see it in the paper. I, watch listen to your show. I watch the, CTV locally. And
sure, yeah.
I've seen no coverage of it, and I thought, the e-bike, or e-whatevers are causing so much havoc on our roads. I thought it might have had a little more coverage than that.
I get
it. But anyway, I'm with you on all this other. I got a speeding ticket on West Heights going back a year or so. Here they changed the speed limit from 40 to 30, and I was going up the hill to get a pizza one night, and a week or so later, I get a ticket.
Most expensive pizza you ever bought, Don.
Yeah, well, but, it was previously a 40 zone, and they changed it to 30. I didn't notice that it had changed, and I was going 41. I mean,
I get you. Listen, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate how much of our local media you're supporting and following as well. Just quickly on West Heights, I know that Kitchener City Councillor Bill Ioannidis has been barking about that one too, because again, the speed camera program is regional. It kind of gets imposed on the lower tier municipalities, and Councillor Ioannidis in Kitchener has been fighting against the speeds on West Heights for quite some time. So anyway, feel for you on that one, Don. Clinton, Farwell's Force member number 35. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Mike?
Good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good.
Good.
So I emailed you about that roundabout that Kyle was talking about earlier.
You
right?
did indeed, yeah.
I have to say, I'm all for it. I would much rather go over that stupid thing, even though as big as it is. But if I take it 5 kilometers or 7 kilometers over the speed limit, at least I don't get a ticket. It could be worth it. I could have a speed camera there. You know, the worst thing that I'm going to get if I take it a little fast is a bit of a bumpy ride. And I say, as I said in the email, I think that they should actually take out the cameras and put those in at school zones. I'd much rather have that. At least if you go over a little fast, you get a bumpy ride, but you don't get a stupid speeding ticket. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I couldn't agree more, and I would like to think that the revenue generated from these speed cameras will pay for those speed bumps as we traffic calm with it.
Now, on a second note, a few weeks ago, I emailed you when you reached about 135 members of your Farwell force.
Yeah.
Now that you're at 165, at what number would you consider maybe doing what I proposed? Make that T-shirt and use that logo I sent you. We could even get our numbers embroidered on it. And you could put all the proceeds towards your Farwell for hire.
Clinton, I love the way you're thinking, and I've got lots of ideas, but the numbers have grown so fast. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of it, but we'll figure something out.
I think it'd be cool, and we could even do an annual convention and yell at some clouds together.
I love it. I'm all in for that. I love it. Thanks, Clinton. Great to hear from you. We'll have a convention and yell at clouds together. I love it. It's kind of like going on the show every day. Christine, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm great, Mike.
Good.
Listen, I love you. I love your show. I listen to it every day.
Bless your heart.
I do. I love it. But when you start talking speed cameras and, talking about data and no kid's been hit at a school zone, it makes me crazy. I cannot understand why we cannot be proactive to avoid kids from being hit, to avoid accidents from happening, instead of being reactive. Let's wait till somebody gets hit, and then we'll talk about speed cameras in school zones. I don't get this, Mike. And the simple solution is just slow the frig down. That's all people have to do. It's so simple.
Christine,
I can't get it.
I love the passion. I love the passion, but I'm telling you, I live almost directly next to an elementary school. I've been there for 20 years. We've created a problem in need of a solution. There's nothing. The danger's not there. It's made up, Christine.
I will tell you, Mike, it's not made up. Just because a kid hasn't been hit. Out in Southwest Kitchener, in the ward that I represent, that is the number one complaint.
I know.
Speeding in school zones, speeding in neighborhoods is the number one complaint I get from citizens out there.
I get it.
So there is something wrong. And if it takes speed cameras to slow people down, I'm all for it, and I don't care what street they put them on. I mean, I would take them on all the streets because it's just it's so simple.
Easy there. All the streets. Be careful now, Christine. Come on.
Okay, maybe that's okay. People can you not look at a sign and see it's 40? Go 40. And I'll say I'm guilty too. Sometimes I'm going 40 and I got to check myself. I'm guilty. I am. But if I got a ticket, I would say, okay, yeah, I got to do better next time. Simple.
But you can afford the ticket too. What about the folks that can't? I got a message from a nurse today, a community nurse who's been dinged 4 times. It's like her wages are being garnished.
Well, okay, 4 times in the same area? It's the same spot?
Yeah. 3 on one spot.
That begs the question, how many, sorry.
I get you. No,
I'm sorry, Mike. I got nothing for that one. But I really think it's better to be proactive than reactive. And I know you said for 20 years we haven't seen accidents, blah, 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 but the streets are crazier than they've ever been. We've got more population, we've got more cars on the streets, and to be honest, not enough police force to manage it all. So
how about we enforce it during school hours then?
Well, we could do that, but then you're going to get, there's no pattern. There's no pattern here. So yeah, during school hours, then say 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you're going to forget that you weren't supposed to speed, and then you're going to get a ticket. And I don't know. What does it matter if you have to go 40 in the school zone? What is so difficult just to lift your foot off the gas for 24 seconds, 25 seconds till you get through it? I just don't get that. I really don't.
I appreciate
We're in such a rush today.
We are in a rush.
We're in such a rush all the time.
All right.
Slow down.
I got to rush out of here because my time's up. But thank you for your passion. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye-bye. I recognize that, Christine. That's Christine Michaud, Ward 4 counselor in Kitchener. Love her. Love the work that she does. Appreciate the alternate point of view. I think it's a great point about being proactive as opposed to reactive. Get it? Point taken. I still think we need to fix this program, but as I said, I am right out of time. I got to hustle. Quick note for you. I'm gone for the rest of the week. don't get too upset with me. I know, because I've been hit and miss here lately, but this is the last show that I'm doing with you as a single man. When I come back next Monday, oh boy, going to have a heavy weight on my left hand. I'll talk to you then, okay? My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.